Chapter 919. It was the first time Lin Yuan had heard of a Class 6 dimensional rift during the Evernight General Meeting. He also knew that Class 6 dimensional rifts could connect to the entire dimensional world. At that time, Lin Yuan felt that the most suitable dimensional world for human development should be the swamp world. Among the 5 major dimensional rifts, the probability of the swamp dimensional rift opening was second only to the water world dimensional rift. It was considered one of the few dimensional rifts that opened. Furthermore, the swamp dimensional rift that opened with relatively few openings was very dangerous. Most of them were black quagmires filled with humus, making it difficult for humans to set foot in them. Swamps could turn into land with the injection of massive amounts of earth elements. However, the cost wasn't something ordinary people could afford. After all, exploring the swamp dimensional rift wasn't like developing factions in the swamp world, where one could develop continuously. As long as the source-type items in the Swamp Dimensional Rift's hub were taken out, the Swamp Dimensional Rift would close, and all the previous investments would be wasted. The Swamp Dimensional Rift only had 40% of land, and there were plenty of poisonous swamp beasts and carnivorous plants. 60% of the swamp world had a massive group of dimensional creatures, swamp crocodiles. The swamp crocodiles could be said to be the most flourishing species in the swamp world. The swamp crocodiles had a large number of Class 1 swamp crocodiles that were comparable to bronze phase. Such swamp crocodiles were mostly half a meter long and belonged to young crocodiles. Although they had sharp teeth in their mouths, all the nutrients they absorbed were used to grow their scales. As a result, the masseter muscles in their mouths had yet to develop, and their strength wasn't considered strong. Even if they were to bite a bronze fey with weak defense, their large mouths could only ensure that the sharp teeth would pierce into the fey's muscles and wouldn't be able to effectively tear it apart. This caused the Class 1 swamp crocodiles to be compared to the Class 1 alien insects. The comparison between Class 1 swamp crocodiles and Class 1 alien insects had even caused a wave among scholars. Scholars used all sorts of evidence to rank the Class 1 swamp crocodiles and Class 1 alien insects. The final conclusion was that the Class 1 alien insects and insect groups might not be able to penetrate the defenses of the Class 1 swamp crocodiles. However, when the Class 1 swamp crocodile's sharp teeth bit on the insect armor, it was equivalent to a large clamp that could be pried open by the Class 1 alien insects at any time. If the Class 1 swamp crocodiles took the initiative to bite the Class 1 alien insects, the Class 1 alien insects would be able to injure them instead. Thus, scholars ranked the Class 1 swamp crocodile's strength below the Class alien insects. The existence of the Class 1 swamp crocodile was considered the shame of the swamp dimensional rift. However, when the marsh crocodile reached Class 3 and was comparable to a gold fey, it would enter adulthood. A Level 3 swamp crocodile's body length could reach 2 meters. However, the Level 3 marsh crocodile had already completely developed its masseter muscles, and its strength had undergone an earth-shattering change compared to when it was young. Its large mouth could easily bite through the flesh of a gold fey and even crush the bones of a gold fey with weak defense. In the pitch-black swamp, the newly matured Level 3 swamp crocodile floated like a piece of rotten wood, ready to ambush its prey at the edge of the swamp at any moment. When the Class 3 swamp crocodile, which was equivalent to a gold fey, bit onto the target, it would use its 2-meter-long body to perform a rapid death roll and easily twist off the prey's limbs. Scholars had also made comparisons between Level 3 marsh crocodiles and Level 3 alien insects. When alien insects reached Level 3, they would evolve into a huge variety. However, the evolution of the swamp crocodile was relatively monotonous. A single Class 3 swamp crocodile would use its large mouth to tear, death roll, and tough scales to easily fight against 2 Class 3 alien insects without falling into a disadvantageous position. Even if a Class 3 swamp crocodile couldn't defeat a Class 3 horn demon, it would definitely be one of the top Class 3-dimensional lifeforms. A Class 1-dimensional rift might already have a Class 3 swamp crocodile. Therefore, the exploration of the swamp dimensional rifts had always been a difficult problem for low-ranked spirit chi professionals, while high-ranked spirit chi professionals didn't like to explore the swamp dimensional rifts. Due to the terrain, the exploration difficulty of the Class 1 swamp dimensional rifts was basically the same as other Class 2-dimensional rifts. In terms of resources, the resources produced by other Class 2-dimensional rifts were undoubtedly several times more than the Class 1 swamp dimensional rifts. This caused the swamp dimensional rifts to be in a situation where very few people were willing to explore. Such a situation directly caused the swamp dimensional rifts to be in a shortage of resources in the market. For example, the swamp crocodile scales had always been used as superior leather. The swamp crocodile skin was made into half-body armor, leather armor, and other spirit chi clothing, which had a relatively high price. The Abyss Dimensional Rifts and the Water World Dimensional Rifts had special products like Heavenly Flames and Heavenly Water. The Swamp Dimensional Rifts also had them. Due to the extreme difficulty of exploring the Swamp Dimensional Rifts, the swamp soil produced by the Swamp Dimensional Rifts was more expensive than Heavenly Flames and Heavenly Water. Heavenly Flames were a kind of aggregation formed by special fire elements, and it was the same for the swamp soil. The swamp soil was a kind of special earth element synthesis product. Burying the swamp soil underground could greatly promote the growth of plant phase. It would allow the entire area of soil to suddenly be filled with abundant nutrients. At the same time, the swamp soil was also an excellent nurturing material for some earth-type phase. When Lin Yuan had constructed the Return from Faraway Manor, when you had buried a few kinds of mid-grade swamp soil that were produced from the Class 3 swamp dimensional rifts. The mid-grade swamp soil combined with tens of thousands of kilograms of energy ores allowed the plant phase in the Return from Faraway Manor to grow extremely quickly. The Return from Faraway Manor's 3,000-meter bamboo forest was filled with normal phase, square bamboos and tang bamboos. During this half a year, without any Creation Master's enhancements, Fangzhou and Tangzhou had already evolved from normal to elite with just the energy provided by the swamp soil and energy ores. It was obvious how beneficial the swamp soil was to plant-type phase. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's question, Morbius answered, "In order to activate the Klein Hub, I just need to find a dimensional rift in advance and enter it to reach the location of the dimensional hub. The Klein Hub will devour the selected dimensional hub. At that time, a dimensional rift will appear above the Klein Hub in the Spirit Lock spatial zone that is connected to the dimensional world. However, once the Klein Hub devours a dimensional hub connected to a dimensional rift, it will not be able to change the type of dimensional hub it devours before it touches the core of that dimensional world. Lin Yuan, you must be careful when you choose to let Klein Hub devour the dimensional hub." Lin Yuan nodded upon hearing Morbius' words. "If it's a choice, I already have an idea. I plan to let the Klein Hub devour the Swamp World's dimensional hub and open a dimensional rift that connects to the Swamp World in the Spirit Lock spatial zone." The first one was even worse. End of chapter. Chapter 920. While speaking, Lin Yuan's eyes clearly revealed his ambition. When he had found out about the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift, he had thought about whether his faction Sky City should develop in the Abyss world. If he developed in the Abyss, he would be able to provide the exceptional flames for the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree in Chimey in the future. After witnessing the might of the Roaring Sun's sacred flame in the Night End Palace, he also wanted to obtain a top-notch extraordinary flame. Even if a top-notch extraordinary flame was not of any practical use to him for a while, it was simply too domineering to use it as a chandelier at the top of the mansion. Furthermore, by the time Chimey attempted to break through to the Fantasy V transformation, it would require top-notch strange flames to continue enhancing its bloodline. It allowed Chimey's bloodline to evolve to a higher level. However, now that the Spirit Lock spatial zone had the Klein Hub, which was connected to the Swamp World, it was as if Lin Yuan could develop the Swamp World by himself. Although the Class 6 Swamp Dimensional Rift would also connect to the Swamp World, there were no Class 6 Swamp Dimensional Rifts in the Radiance Federation. Even if Lin Yuan might encounter Spirit Chi professionals in the Swamp World, they would definitely come from other federations. Of course, the Swamp World was massive, and it was no different from searching for a needle in a haystack to find the other federation's Spirit Chi professionals. The Slaughter Sky Butterfly had become a fantasy breed and issued a master-servant contract with Purple Firmament. It was the same as Lin Yuan's Fae. Lin Yuan had yet to make any arrangements for the heaven-slaughtering butterfly. Now, it seemed that the killer butterfly could be considered the pioneer of the Swamp World. With the strength of a creation breed like the Slaughterer Butterfly, there wouldn't be any problems as long as he didn't encounter a level 10 swamp dimensional creature in the Swamp World. Even if they encountered a grade 10 swamp dimensional creature, it might not be able to defeat a pure offense-type scavenging butterfly. He had already used true data to check the Slaughter Sky Butterfly's attributes. After Morbius became a fantasy breed, Lin Yuan could indeed check the creation breed Slaughterer Butterfly's true data. He had long been curious about the creation breed phase data, and the Slaughter Sky Butterfly's true data did not disappoint him at all. It could be said that the killer butterfly's abilities and exclusive skills were the best interpretation of power. Simple and violent, breaking 10,000 techniques with one force. With the Slaughter Sky Butterfly around, it could maximize the safety of all of Lin Yuan's development and construction in the Swamp World. At critical moments, he could also let the blue flash purple butterfly communicate with the Slaughter Butterfly in the Swamp World and let it return to the Spirit Lock spatial zone through the Klein Hub. He would then summon the slaughtering sky butterfly that had returned to the spirit lock spatial zone as his strongest trump card. Since he had decided to let the Klein hub devour the dimensional hub in the swamp dimensional rift, given Lin Yuan's character, he would naturally do as he said. He was now very curious about what the swamp world looked like. After making the decision, he did not immediately leave the spirit lock spatial zone. Instead, he started to organize the resources in the spirit lock spatial zone. As the spirit lock spatial zone expanded, it caused the originally packed spirit lock spatial zone to look empty. He made a simple division of the spirit lock spatial zone's 480 square meters and placed the floating island whale, Gray, the twin red pagoda, and the rations vine in the pure land of bliss. The pure land of bliss had expanded to 40 square meters, which was half the size of the spirit lock spatial zone. It was enough for Lin Yuan to store the most precious resources in the spirit lock spatial zone. Then Lin Yuan took out row after row of shelves from the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box, which he had asked Hu Quan to make with rare wood. There were lifelike carvings on the shelves. At that time, Hu Quan still did not understand why Lin Yuan would waste his time with ordinary wood when he had so much jade-textured wood. Even ordinary wood was relatively precious. Lin Yuan had asked Hu Quan to make these shelves in advance for the expansion of the spirit lock spatial zone. However, he did not expect the spirit lock spatial zone to expand to such a scale, so the shelves prepared in advance still seemed a little lacking. Lin Yuan arranged these shelves, together with the shelves with the jade-textured wood, into 2 long rows. He then took out wooden boards made of various rare wood and placed them on these shelves. After filling these shelves, Lin Yuan took out a large number of all kinds of rare wood boards and piled them on the spirit lock spatial zone's ground. After piling up 5 large piles, Lin Yuan stopped taking out wooden boards from the diamond face storage box. Then he simply spread a large number of coral jades on the spirit lock spatial zone's ground. When Silverflower saw Lin Yuan take out the coral jades, she happily waved the 3 pairs of wings on her back and flew back and forth around him. Her face revealed a suspicious blush as she softly muttered, "Lin Yuan treats Silverflower the best. Lin Yuan treats Silverflower the best." Lin Yuan was currently only making preliminary use of the spirit lock spatial zone. Next, Lin Yuan planned to trouble Hu Quan to carve more shelves for him. The coral jades spread on the ground could also be placed on the shelves. Lin Yuan planned to carefully tidy up the spirit lock spatial zone after returning to the mansion. At the same time, he also tried to nurture a few fays that had previously responded greatly to the pure spiritual power in the spirit lock spatial zone but had not evolved or mutated. The increase in the spirit chi concentration in the spirit lock spatial zone had imperceptibly accelerated the floating island whale's incubation time. Under the sudden increase in the spirit chi concentration, the floating island whale absorbed 10 times more spirit chi in one breath than before. This naturally led to the demand for water elemental pearls. This caused the floating island whale's demand for water elemental pearls to reach 10 times more than before. Fortunately, Lin Yuan had saved a lot of heavenly maiden-grade water elemental pearls. Otherwise, it would not have been enough for the floating island whale. Although the spirit lock spatial zone's concentration had increased by 10 times, the aquamarine elemental shellfish's production speed of elemental pearls was not 10 times as fast as before. Lin Yuan estimated that the aquamarine elemental shellfish's production speed was only about 3 times faster than before. Such a production speed obviously could not meet the floating island whale's demand for water elemental pearls. Therefore, Lin Yuan still had to think of a way to get some young elemental shellfish in a short time. Lin Yuan suddenly felt that although the production speed of various types of elemental shellfish had increased, his demand for heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls had also increased. The development of the swamp world required a huge amount of pure earth elements to turn the swamp into land. The earth elemental heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls were undoubtedly the best choice to provide pure earth elements. In addition, the slaughter sky butterfly also needed a large number of earth element heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls to restore its depleted bloodline. Lin Yuan was now determined to obtain the elemental shellfish. The second was even more. End of this chapter. Chapter 921. However, Lin Yuan wasn't worried about the source of the elemental shellfish. The increase in the spirit chi density in the spirit lock spatial zone had increased the speed at which the little demoness nurtured the golden lotus brocade. His identity as the Moon Empress disciple had already spread among the veteran factions and the top factions during the Great Night meeting. Currently, only the Coiling Dragon Valley and Dawn Cloud Avian can possess the golden lotus brocade plant. He contacted Coiling Dragon Valley's current clan master, Long Tu, and the great elder of Liyun Niao Ken, both of whom had visited him at the Return to Faraway Manor. The royal capital's Fey Observer Guild's master Lan Qin had also helped to advertise her Golden Lotus brocade. At that time, the various major forces would definitely come to him for the Golden Lotus brocade stock. Lin Yuan could also take the opportunity to raise his request for the elemental shellfish when the major factions sought him. By gathering the various factions' elemental shellfish resources, the number of elemental pearls in Lin Yuan's possession would increase tremendously. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had been developing luxury goods resources recently, and the number of Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls in its hands far exceeded its needs. The Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls could be processed by the Heavenly Craft Pavilion into top-notch luxury goods and sold to the market. Presumably, everyone would go crazy for it. At that time, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's luxury resources could also take advantage of the situation to become a brand and suppress and annex other forces in the market that had luxury resources as their function. Perhaps in the future, when there would be occasions like the Nix conference, Listen could also attend as a family head of a top faction. After Lin Yun left the Spirit Lock spatial zone, he called Wuxia. Lin Yuan was currently in the wilderness 1,500 kilometers away from the outskirts of the royal capital. This place was even closer to Ascending Dragon City than the royal capital. Furthermore, Ascending Dragon City had the highest probability of opening a swamp dimensional rift among the 36 major cities. Now was the end of the opening phase of the dimensional rift, and it was the easiest time for a dimensional rift to open without any warning. Therefore, it should not be difficult for him to find an open swamp dimensional rift now. As the chief guard's disciple, Lu Jie only needed to make a phone call to the left and right hall masters to immediately know where the swamp dimensional rift was opening near Ascending Dragon City. The call was quickly picked up by Lu Jie, and the first thing he said after picking up the phone was, "Lin Yuan, I just heard from Wenyu that the mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer have returned to the mansion. Are you all right?" Lin Yuan replied with a smile. "Brother Lu, I'm fine here. Are you in the Yeong Palace or the Land of Soul Suppression?" Lu Jie had just said that he had heard the news of the mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer's return to the manor from Wenyu, which meant that Lu Jie was not in the manor at the moment. If Lu Jie was in the Land of Spirit Suppression and Night End Palace, he would not have to call the left and right protectors to ask about the swamp dimensional rift near Ascending Dragon City. All Lu Jie needed to do was to check the reports from the spirit guards regarding the dimensional space. "Lin Yuan, I am now in the Land of Spirit Suppression. Master has already set off for the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift for a final inspection. I'm planning to return to the manor." Lin Yuan asked. "Big Brother Lu, help me check the location of the closest swamp dimensional rift to Ascending Dragon City." After saying that, he quickly added another sentence. "It would be best if it is a Class 1 dimensional rift. As the grade of the dimensional rift increased, its surface area would also increase. Therefore, if Lin Yuan wanted to find a dimensional hub in a dimensional rift, a Class 1 dimensional rift was undoubtedly the most suitable." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Lu Jie replied without asking much. "Lin Yuan, I'll go check it now. Once I'm done, I'll give you a call." After saying that, Lu Jie hung up the phone. Lin Yuan stretched his body and felt that he still had the foresight. While collecting the ethereal jellyfish's tentacles, he had asked Listen to use the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's channels to place the tentacles in the three main cities closest to the royal capital. Lin Yuan planned to wait for the ethereal jellyfish's tentacles to be collected before using the royal capital as the center to radiate to the entire Radiance sect. At that time, he would be able to use the ethereal jellyfish's ability node to teleport to any location, saving Lin Yuan the time of rushing. In less than 3 minutes, Lu Jie called Lin Yuan. "Lin Yuan, there are a total of 3 swamp dimensional rifts that have opened outside Ascending Dragon City. Only one of them is Class 2 while the other 2 are Class 3. There is no Class 1. The 2 Class 3 swamp dimensional rifts have opened in places guarded by the Spirit Guards and Ascending Dragon Guards. However, the Class 2 one has opened in a small place called Millstone Town. Millstone Town's location is too remote. This Class 2 swamp dimensional rift was only sent out by a Spirit Guard who happened to be doing a mission near Millstone Town and ran out of the dimensional rift's shielding range. After sending out the news, that Spirit Guard quickly returned to Millstone Town and prepared to participate in the resistance against the swamp dimensional creature tide. However, Millstone Town is too remote. Even if the Ascending Dragon Guards and Spirit Guards received the news, they would need at least 40 minutes to rush over. Lu Jie's tone was very sorrowful, and he only hated that he could not appear in Millstone Town now. Lu Jie knew that Millstone Town was a place that Lin Yuan had once protected with his life as black. However, this place was now facing a calamity again. It was very likely to disappear from Ascending Dragon City's territory. There was a high chance that Class 4 swamp crocodiles would appear in the creature tide from the Class 2 swamp dimensional rift. Swamp dimensional life forms like the swamp crocodiles would enter a berserk state when there was a lack of water. Any Class 4 swamp crocodile, which was equivalent to a platinum fae, would be equivalent to a destructive meat grinder in Millstone Town. The strongest expert in a border town would at most have a low-quality gold fae. Previously, there was also a spirit guard team stationed in Millstone Town. However, the Radiance Federation was simply too big, and the spirit guards and Ascending Dragon guards were simply not enough in times of emergency. Those spirit guard teams were roaming around to guard various resource points like the Endless Forest, slowly forming a small town that was not within Ascending Dragon City's planning area. Lu Jie only hoped that there would be a team of powerful spirit chi professionals in Millstone Town to help Millstone Town overcome the current crisis. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan's eyes shrank and immediately replied, "Big Brother Lu, I understand. Brother Lu, I understand. I will return to Yuan Manor for dinner tonight." After speaking, Lin Yuan hung up the phone and circulated his spiritual power to teleport to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's office in Ascending Dragon City. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's staff stationed in Ascending Dragon City was so frightened that they screamed. Lin Yuan did not explain much and summoned the Slaughtering Sky Butterfly. He then issued the first order to the Slaughtering Sky Butterfly with a grave expression. "Slaughtering Sky Butterfly, take me to Millstone Town according to the map I gave you." While speaking, Lin Yuan had already handed over his cell phone, which had the map to Millstone Town on the screen. Lin Yuan was not a prophet, so he naturally would not bury the ethereal jellyfish's tentacles in Millstone Town in advance. If he wanted to save Millstone Town now, the only thing he could rely on was the Creation Breed Slaughtering Sky Butterfly's power. Only the Creation Breed's power could instantly rush to Millstone Town, which was thousands of kilometers away from here. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the Slaughtering Sky Butterfly flapped its butterfly wings lightly, and then it suddenly enlarged in the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's office. It became a wingspan of about 3 meters. The Slaughtering Sky Butterfly's back of such a size was just enough to carry a person. In order to hurry, the Slaughtering Sky Butterfly did not conceal its Creation Breed aura. When the Slaughtering Sky Butterfly expanded, the Creation Breed's aura suddenly descended in Ascending Dragon City. Third, end of this chapter. Chapter 922. The Slaughter Sky Butterfly had only released its aura as a Creation Breed fae. The Slaughter Sky Butterfly did not target anyone, but its massive aura seemed to have lowered the height of all the buildings in Ascending Dragon City by about 5 meters. It made the ordinary people and spirit chi professionals near the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's office feel suffocated. Everyone who sensed this Creation Breed aura raised their heads in horror and looked in the direction of the Slaughter Sky Butterfly. This included a middle-aged man who looked 70% similar to Long Tu in the Ascending Dragon City Lord residence. After the middle-aged man sensed the Creation Breed phase aura, he waved his hand and summoned a wolf beast with saber teeth. This wolf beast had 4 pairs of broken wings on its back, and a dark and ferocious aura seeped out from the broken black wings. The aura emitted by the wolf beast summoned by the middle-aged man was much weaker than that of the killer butterfly. However, this wolf beast's strength had reached the pinnacle of Myth 3 and was just a step away from becoming a Creation Breed. The middle-aged man could not be bothered with the wolf beast's aura or the Creation Breed's aura. He leaped onto the wolf beast's back and headed toward the Creation Breed's aura. The middle-aged man did not believe that anyone would dare to behave atrociously in Ascending Dragon City for no reason. A Creation Breed fae would definitely understand the punishment for making a move in the city. They would definitely be locked up in the sin-cleansing pond for a year. Therefore, the middle-aged man wanted to understand why this Creation Breed fae would release its aura in Ascending Dragon City. After soaring into the sky on the wolf beast, the middle-aged man saw a milky blue butterfly with a purple halo flying high above Ascending Dragon City. On the butterfly's back was a youth wearing white and blue spirit chi clothes. The youth was looking at him with a stern expression as though he was waiting for his arrival. The middle-aged man rode the wolf beast to the youth and shouted, "I am Ascending Dragon City City Lord Long Shao. I am Ascending Dragon City City Lord Long Shao. Why did you let the Creation Breed fae release its aura in Ascending Dragon City?" As the City Lord of Ascending Dragon City, Long Zhao's strength was only at the pinnacle of Emperor class and had yet to reach the level of an Emperor class expert. However, Long Zhao's tone was filled with a questioning tone. As he spoke, Long Zhao's gaze swept back and forth between the Slaughter Sky Butterfly and Lin Yuan. He did not understand how Lin Yuan could control a creation breed Fey at his current age. Could this youth in front of him be an indecent Emperor-class expert who had intentionally maintained his appearance at 18 or 19 years old when breaking through to S rank? However, Long Zhao immediately rejected this idea in his heart. Long Zhao wasn't a creation master, but as a pinnacle Emperor-class expert, he could still see through a person's true age. The youth in front of him was indeed only 18 or 19 years old. From the moment Lin Yuan saw ascending Dragon City Lord Long Zhao, he was certain that Long Zhao was from the Coiling Dragon Valley, a pinnacle faction. At first glance, Long Tu and Long Zhao were 70% similar, while Long Tao and Long Zhao were 50% similar. This meant that even if Long Zhao was not a direct descendant of the Coiled Dragon Valley, his bloodline was definitely not that distant. However, time was of the essence. Lin Yuan did not have the time to talk to Long Taoka too much. Lin Yuan shook his hand and threw the two emblems at Long Zhao. Long Zhao was waiting for the youth in front of him to give him an answer. When he saw the youth throw the items at him, Long Zhao quickly reached out to catch them. Long Zhao caught the items that Lin Yuan threw and lowered his head to look at them. Long Zhao's body, which was on the wolf beast's back, trembled. One of the emblems was the Radiance Medal that was given to the next generation of Radiance Envoys and 10 Radiance Knights. The other was a Class 2 Creation Master's emblem that was carved with the Moon Totem. One of the emblems showed the youth's strength, while the other showed the youth's identity. Regardless of which of the two emblems the youth threw out, Long Zhao didn't dare to be negligent. Moreover, the youth had directly thrown out two. At that moment, the youth's stern and pleasant voice echoed in Long Zhao's ears. A Class 2 Swamp Dimensional Rift has opened in the direction of Ascending Dragon City's Millstone Town. The City Lord can just send some low-class creation masters to heal the phase with damaged roots. I will settle the rest. After speaking, Lin Yuan spoke softly to the Slaughter Sky Butterfly beneath him. Slaughter Sky Butterfly, let's go. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's instructions, the Slaughter Sky Butterfly flapped its wings a few times and vanished from Long Tu's sight. Lin Yuan had said those words to Long Tu earlier to explain why he had let the Slaughter Sky Butterfly release the creation breed phase aura in Ascending Dragon City. Secondly, it was to allow Long Zhao to save a portion of the Ascending Dragon Guards and Healing-type Spirit Chi professionals' resources. He would send the Ascending Dragon Guards and Healing-type Spirit Chi professionals that were still in Ascending Dragon City to other more dangerous places. Millstone Town wasn't the only place in Ascending Dragon City that had developed from natural gathering places. These small towns were extremely similar to Millstone Town. Since Lin Yuan happened to know about Millstone Town's matter and could resolve it, then he wouldn't have to waste Ascending Dragon City's most precious protection resources during special times. Lin Yuan had asked Long Zhao to arrange for some low-class creation masters to head to Ascending Dragon City because he couldn't expose the Pure Land of Bliss. However, he could still use the healing-type Spirit Chi professionals' means to heal the injured Spirit Chi professionals in Millstone Town. After such a long time, the Platinum X/Fantasy 3 Jasmine Lily had already undergone an earth-shattering transformation compared to the Silver I/Fantasy I Jasmine Lily. As long as he didn't summon the Jasmine Lily, no one would associate him with black. At that moment, the flying Slaughter Sky Butterfly had propped up the power world to help Lin Yuan block the blade-like airflow and the faint spatial ripples that appeared when he was traveling at full speed. Lin Yuan could see the pitch-black spatial ripples colliding with the shield formed by the power world with his naked eye. Just by looking at the bursts of spatial ripples, Lin Yuan was able to predict how fast the Slaughter Sky Butterfly's wings would be each time it flapped its wings. Even so, Lin Yuan was still burning with anxiety. During the phone call with Lu Jie, Lin Yuan only knew that a Class 2 Swamp Dimensional Rift had opened in Millstone Town. The opening of a Class 2 Swamp Dimensional Rift was the same as the Pinnacle Class 1 Alien Insect Dimensional Rift that Lin Yuan had encountered in Millstone Town. They both required a certain amount of time to brew. Only 5 minutes had passed since the Spirit Guard, who was doing a mission in Millstone Town, had reported the sudden appearance of a Class 2 Swamp Dimensional Rift. If Lin Yuan was lucky, he should be able to rush over before the Class 2 Swamp Dimensional Rift brewed a creature tide. However, Lin Yuan only had this hope. At the same time, he understood that this hope was very slim. The first one was even better. End of this chapter. Chapter 923. Most of the Spirit Guards who were doing simple missions outside during special times only possessed Platinum Phase and were considered non-staff members of the Spirit Guards. The core members of the Spirit Guards would usually form small teams and wander around the various dimensional rifts. A spirit guard with a platinum Fey would need a lot of time to run out of the Class 2 swamp dimensional rift to send a message. With that thought, Lin Yuan clenched his fists tightly. At Millstone Town's only entrance, which was the blood-soaked city wall where Lin Yuan and the others had fought, stood over 100 spirit chi professionals. Most of the spirit chi professionals had one or two Feys standing in front of them. The Feys in front of the spirit chi professionals were of varying strength. The stronger ones were at gold and silver, while the weaker ones were at bronze, elite, and even normal. They had grave expressions, but they had a heroic spirit of vowing to protect Millstone Town with their lives. However, the three people standing at the front had ugly expressions. One of them was the president of the Millstone Town's Guild Alliance branch who possessed a gold Fey. The other was a spirit guard who had just sent a message and hurried back to help protect Millstone Town. In front of this spirit guard were two mighty lions that were 4 meters long with thick manes and green beastly faces. The two platinum V/epic green-faced lions would roar from time to time, boosting the morale of the spirit chi professionals behind them. However, the spirit guard's forehead would occasionally roll down a few drops of cold sweat that landed on Millstone Town's fertile black soil in early spring. The cold sweat didn't splash as it was absorbed by the black soil. As a spirit guard, Zhao Su knew how terrifying a Class 2-dimensional rift was. A Class 2-dimensional rift wouldn't only have a few Class 3-dimensional lifeforms like a Class 1-dimensional rift. A Class 2-dimensional rift would have more than 100 Class 3-dimensional lifeforms pouring down, and at the same time, there would be more than 5 Class 4-dimensional lifeforms pouring down. If the Class 4-dimensional lifeforms had marsh crocodiles, his green-faced lions wouldn't even have a chance of winning in a one-on-one duel with them. Moreover, there was no such thing as a one-on-one duel in the dimensional lifeform tide. His two green-faced lions didn't even have the time to charge before they were crushed to pieces by the hundreds of level 3 swamp crocodiles. Unless there was a miracle, there was no possibility of victory. However, miracles were called miracles. How could they appear so easily? However, Zhao Su did not regret his determination to return here to defend Millstone Town with everyone despite knowing that it was impossible. This was because Zhao Su's mission as a spirit guard and the light in his heart did not allow him to take a step back. This sense of mission and courage made Zhao Su's somewhat pale face reveal a touch of heroism and determination. Zhao Su turned to look at the old president of the Millstone Town branch of the Guild Alliance. "Old President, did you sprinkle the blood essence I just gave you around the entrance of the survivor fortress built by the Guild Alliance in Millstone Town?" The old president nodded and said, "Lord Zhao Su, according to your instructions, this old man has sprinkled the jar of blood essence extracted from the level 5 swamp crocodile around the entrance of the fortress." Upon hearing that, Zhao Su's pale face finally revealed a trace of relief. The survivor fortress was an underground structure that would be built in any small town with humans in the Radiance Federation. When Millstone Town's women, children, and ordinary people without combat ability encountered such natural disasters, they would hide in the survivor fortress. The survivor fortress wasn't built to build a paradise isolated from the world, but to use strong defenses to withstand the natural disaster for a period of time. Then they would wait for the spirit guards and ascending dragon guards' assistance. In the face of a natural disaster like the Class 2 swamp dimensional lifeform tide, Millstone Town's survivor fortress wouldn't even be able to withstand it for 5 minutes. Dimensional lifeforms had an extremely strong ability to sense the aura of life. If everyone hid in the survivor fortress, it would immediately be surrounded by the Class 2 swamp lifeform tide. With enemies on all sides, everyone inside would become delicacies for the swamp dimensional lifeforms. Therefore, the most important thing to prevent the swamp dimensional lifeform tide from attacking the survivor fortress was to set up defenses under Millstone Town's stone walls. Zhao Su only hoped that his men would be able to resist the Class 2 swamp lifeform tide for a while. Even if the swamp dimensional lifeforms that killed them found the survivor fortress, they would be afraid of the level 5 swamp crocodile blood essence that was sprinkled around the survivor fortress. The level 5 swamp crocodile blood essence should be able to delay for a period of time. Anyway, he had already sent the message to the spirit guards, and the ascending dragon guards and spirit guards would definitely be able to rush to Millstone Town within an hour. However, how should they delay for time? This was the problem that Zhao Su was currently facing. If the torrent of life was ultimately unable to build a protective barrier, then how could the souls of the spirit chi professionals behind him, who were protecting Millstone Town's wives and children, be at peace? Zhao Su only hated himself for being too weak. If he didn't have 2 platinum green-faced lions but 2 diamond green-faced lions instead. As long as he tightened the defensive line and let the 2 diamond green-faced lions block the town entrance, he would be able to delay for at least 10 minutes. At that moment, Zhao Su heard a man beside him with a croaky voice shouting, "Drink, drink more. Drink, give me a little more. Otherwise, not only will you not have gray beetles to eat, but you won't even have a horse." Zhao Su felt that this voice was filled with Zhu An's aura. However, Zhao Su also admired the youth beside him from the bottom of his heart. As a healing-type spirit chi professional, when Zhao Su had gone to deliver the message to the spirit guards, this youth and the old president had already led everyone to set up a formation outside Millstone Town. Even the survivor fortress had been set up very appropriately. Zhao Su saw this healing-type spirit chi professional, Lu Lang, pointing at the 5th bucket in front of him and saying to a bald bird, "Say, when you were a spitting turtle dove, you could drink at least 3 buckets of water. Now that you have evolved into a spitting river turtle dove, why can't you even drink the 5th bucket of water?" The spitting river turtle dove cried out with grievance and would burp a mouthful of water with every cry. When he saw the water burping out of the spitting river turtle dove, Lu Lang was so anxious that he stomped his feet. This water was a life-saving item on the battlefield. How could it burp out just like that? This water was a life-saving item on the battlefield. How could it just burp out like that? Fine, I won't drink it. Stop talking. The spitting river turtle dove used its wings to pat the big bucket of water. The saliva river turtle dove patted the water bucket with its wings, feeling wronged. Fortunately, the saliva river turtle dove couldn't speak. Otherwise, it would have smacked Lu Lang's head and roared at him. Chapter 924. Previously, I only needed a few mouthfuls to finish the small bucket you brought. Now the bucket you brought can almost fit me in. I have almost drunk a swimming pool's worth of water, and you still think I haven't drunk enough? Your horse is gone too. However, when the saliva river turtle dove thought of the gray beetles that its owner had promised, it plunged into the bucket that could fit itself and began to gulp down the water. For some reason, Lu Lang suddenly thought of the silver-masked youth as he stood there. At that critical moment, that youth had waved his hand, and a sea of flowers had surged toward the insect swarm. The sea of flowers had devoured the alien insects and created a green belt of life for the people in Millstone Town. At the same time, the silver-masked youth summoned a strange silver-fantasy breed fae. The silver fantasy breed fae had spat out hundreds of green spots of light, which had snatched back the fading lives of the spirit chi professionals from the hands of the Grim Reaper. Ever since that night of survival, that silver-masked youth had become Lu Lang's goal and faith as a spirit chi professional. Lu Lang wasn't a fool, and he didn't think that he could survive in the Class 2 Swamp Dimensional Rift. After being redeemed in Millstone Town and having his life extended, Lu Lang had resolutely sold his house in the royal capital and settled down in Millstone Town. He had even opened a healing center in Millstone Town with peace of mind. Although Lu Lang's contracted fae was very disgusting when it came to healing people, Lu Lang had received very little money. When encountering spirit chi professionals who were seriously injured and couldn't fork out money, Lu Lang was also willing to treat them for free. The reason why Lu Lang did this was because he wanted to continue living in the Pure Land where his faith was born, and protect his faith in this Pure Land. If there was anything that Lu Lang was worried about, it would undoubtedly be Black's official fan club. Lu Lang felt that without him around, Black's official fan club, which had just developed, would likely lose its combat power. Lu Lang normally couldn't stand people talking bad about Black on Star Web. How could a person who was willing to save others and sacrifice his life to protect the weak not be good? In fact, Lu Lang was not familiar with Black at all. Even Black himself had not joined Black's official fan club. However, as the leader of Black's official fan group, Lu Lang had been paying attention to Black's news. It could be said that Black was so low-key that it was as if it was in the dust. It clearly had a dedicated reporter, but it had never accepted an interview. One had to know that any random thing that Black did, after being interviewed and written into a report, would be enough to double Black's reputation. But he still did not do so. What was there to hate about such a person? Lu Lang's mind was already making arrangements for his funeral. Lu Lang felt that it was impossible for Tian Ningning to replace him as the new Madman Zuan. However, if he were to die, Tian Ningning would be the most suitable candidate to take over his position and become the leader of the Black official Star Web fan group. At this moment, the sound of scales scraping against the ground rang out. The sound of the scales scraping against the ground was like raindrops hitting banana leaves, causing the entire ground to tremble. Looking over, Zhang Xian saw 4 ferocious crocodiles with dark green scales on their bodies and sharp teeth in their mouths. There was a 6-meter-long lizard in the middle of the 4 crocodiles. The lizard's limbs were very thick, and when it ran, it would occasionally spit out its tongue. When it spat out its tongue, the corner of its mouth would slide down a large piece of jelly that emitted a nauseating smell. Seeing 4 Class 4 marsh crocodiles was already enough to make one despair, but when Zhao Su saw this 6-meter-long terrifying lizard, he tightly clenched his teeth. The 2 green-faced lions revealed traces of unease as they roared. Zhao Su never expected that a Class 2-dimensional rift would actually have such a terrifying creature like the Medusa giant lizard. Based on the size of the Medusa giant lizard, it was also a Class 4-dimensional lifeform. However, a Class 4 Medusa giant lizard was completely capable of single-handedly fighting 4 marsh crocodiles without being at a disadvantage. The Medusa giant lizard had always existed as the snake-haired Medusa's bodyguard and rarely appeared even in Class 3 swamp-dimensional rifts. But now, an underage Class 4 Medusa giant lizard had actually entered the Class 2 swamp-dimensional rift through the dimensional hub and ran out of it. The charging Medusa giant lizard had absolute authority. A marsh crocodile was a little too close to the Medusa giant lizard and was slapped by the Medusa giant lizard's claw, causing it to stagger. However, the Class 4 marsh crocodile did not have any thoughts of resisting. It was rumored that the Medusa giant lizard was a swamp-dimensional lifeform that could not be contracted by spirit chi professionals, but it could be reared using a special method. The Medusa giant lizard that was reared using a special method was also able to maintain a very high degree of loyalty to humans. However, the appearance of the Medusa giant lizard was equivalent to declaring that everyone was unable to resist the Class 2 swamp creature tide. The Class 5 marsh crocodile essence blood that was sprinkled around the survivor fortress was also useless. Zhao Su, Lu Lang and everyone else including the old president were in despair. In the face of absolute power, even if they could uphold their beliefs, all resistance would ultimately be futile. Upon seeing the situation, Zhao Su, who was a spirit guard with rich combat experience, yelled out, "Retreat back into the town. We have to rely on the stone wall behind us to block the charge of the Class 4 Medusa giant lizard and the 4 marsh crocodiles. Go behind the stone wall. I'll restrain the Medusa giant lizard and the 4 Class 4 marsh crocodiles. You guys." At this point, Zhao Su suddenly stopped talking. Over 100 human head-sized flies were flying out of the Class 2 swamp creature tide. After these Class 1 swamp-dimensional lifeform beetles flew out, they shot energy rays at the crowd from their tails without any hesitation. As a Class 1 swamp-dimensional lifeform, the energy ray attack of the beetles was not strong. It was roughly equivalent to a 20-kilogram hammer smashing on a human body. However, the energy rays of the Class 1 swamp-dimensional lifeform beetles had burning properties. Even if 7 or 8 energy rays hit a spirit chi professional, it would still not be fatal. However, the burning would cause great damage to the spirit chi professional's body. Before Zhao Su could give his command, most of the spirit chi professionals guarding outside Millstone Town lost their mobility and fell into the mud. They were waiting for the outcome of being devoured by the swamp-dimensional lifeform beetles. Lu Lang and the Saliva River turtle dove in front of him were also severely injured by the beetles' energy rays. Lu Lang, who was on the ground, quickly lost consciousness. The silver-masked figure appeared in Lu Lang's mind again. At that moment, an enraged roar echoed from the horizon. "Slaughter Sky Butterfly. Apart from that Medusa giant lizard, spare none of the others." Chapter 925. Lin Yuan, who was standing on the slaughter butterfly's back, was truly enraged. If he had come a little later, the spirit chi professionals in Millstone Town would have been drowned by this endless Class 2 swamp-dimensional lifeform tide. Especially the Class 4 Medusa giant lizard and the 4 Class 4 swamp crocodiles that led the swamp-dimensional creature tide. They had opened their mouths wide and were ready to enjoy the first feast after arriving in the main world. At the same time, Lin Yuan let out a long sigh of relief. Although he had come late, he had still arrived in the nick of time. Those spirit chi professionals who were lying on the ground and crying out in pain were at most seriously injured and on the verge of death. As long as the energy rays released by the Class 1 swamp-dimensional lifeform beetle didn't hit their heads at the same time, it would be very difficult to take the spirit chi professionals' lives. After Lin Yuan issued an order to the slaughter butterfly, it pressed its creation breed phase pressure mercilessly onto the endless swamp-dimensional lifeform tide. Under the slaughter butterfly's pressure, the swamp-dimensional lifeform tide was like harvested wheat in a wheat field that fell to the ground uniformly. Under the creation breed phase pressure, the dimensional lifeforms in the swamp-dimensional lifeform tide were so frightened that they couldn't even think of resisting. This included the 4 Class 4 swamp crocodiles. The 4 Class 4 swamp crocodiles were shivering as they curled up their tails and pointed their mouths full of sharp teeth on the ground. This action was the signal for dimensional lifeforms like the swamp crocodiles to submit. However, the 6-meter-long Class 4 Medusa giant lizard didn't immediately submit to the slaughter butterfly's creation breed aura. Despite still falling to the ground, it struggled to let out an unwilling hiss. The Medusa giant lizard was an existence that guarded the Medusa demonis in the swamp dimensional rift and had extremely strong growth potential. Medusa lizards could rely on devouring a large number of dimensional creatures of the same level to advance. Furthermore, by devouring their own kind, they would perfect their genetic model and evolve towards a higher level of bloodline. It was rumored that a Class 9 Medusa giant lizard, which was equivalent to a suzerain/Myth 3 Fae, had been found in the Class 5 swamp dimensional rift. At that time, after the Class 9 Medusa giant lizard had been killed, it had been stored in the Wind Mist City Fae Observer Guild. Many Class 5 Fae observers dissected the Class 9 Medusa monitor lizard and discovered that the Law Origin crystal in its body was mutating. The shadow of the Medusa monitor lizard appeared inside the Law Origin crystal. The Medusa phantom in the Law Origin crystal seemed to have opened up a small world inside it. This discovery proved that the Medusa monitor lizard had the potential to become a Class 10-dimensional lifeform that was comparable to a creation breed Fae. As a result, many veteran powers and peak powers began to raise Medusa lizards, using special methods to make the Medusa lizards submit to them. As the Medusa lizard needed to devour swamp dimensional creatures of the same level to advance, it needed cannibalism to evolve its bloodline. Furthermore, the probability of the swamp dimensional rift opening up was very small. After nurturing the Medusa giant lizard to Tier 5, it would be extremely difficult for it to continue to evolve. He would need to obtain a large amount of fresh meat from the Class 3 swamp dimensional rift. Although the Medusa monitor looked like a scavenger, it was very picky when it came to eating. It did not eat dead dimensional lifeforms at all. This nature caused the higher the grade of the Medusa monitor lizard, the higher the cost of nurturing it. After all, not everyone could go to the swamp dimensional rift to catch fresh swamp dimensional lifeforms at any time to raise the Medusa monitor lizard. Due to various reasons, the popularity of nurturing the Medusa monitor lizard began to slowly decline. The Medusa monitor lizard was even once rated as the most fraudulent dimensional lifeform. However, to Lin Yuan, the Medusa monitor lizard had a different meaning. The Klein hub in his spirit lock spatial zone could directly connect to the swamp world. If he wanted to nurture the Medusa monitor lizard, he just needed to let it forage freely in the swamp world. After using a special method to make the Medusa giant lizard submit, he could let it roam freely. Therefore, after seeing this Medusa monitor lizard, Lin Yuan decided to let the killer butterfly keep it. At that moment, the spirit chi professionals in Millstone Town, who had not lost consciousness after being attacked by the beetle's energy rays, looked at the swamp dimensional lifeform tide that had abruptly stopped and swallowed their saliva. When they sensed the terrifying pressure that was not targeted at them, they could not help but raise their heads and look toward the sky. Everyone saw a huge milky blue butterfly with a purple halo flapping its wings and flying high in the sky. On the butterfly's back was a sunny youth who was frowning and looking at the swamp dimensional lifeform tide. At that moment, everyone, including Zhao Su, could not help but have a phrase flash in their minds. A celestial had descended. At the moment of life and death, a young celestial had descended by their side on a butterfly. Suddenly, everyone saw the milky blue butterfly flap its wings and release thousands of palm-sized butterfly shadows. These butterfly phantoms carried an irresistible force as they shuttled through the swamp's dimensional creatures. In the blink of an eye, apart from the 4 Class 4 swamp crocodiles and the Medusa monitor lizard, the other boundless swamp dimensional lifeforms were all dead or injured. Even the beetles, which were the largest in number, were penetrated by the palm-sized butterfly shadows from the center, and none survived. The slaughter sky butterfly guessed that Lin Yuan had left the Medusa monitor lizard behind because he wanted to nurture it. Therefore, he had left the 4 swamp crocodiles, which were of the same grade as the Medusa monitor lizard. Presumably, he wanted to use these swamp crocodiles as materials for the Medusa monitor lizard's evolution. The instantaneous redemption was simply too dreamy. After the beautiful butterfly shadows that filled the sky, it was the end of the swamp dimensional lifeform tide. Under Millstone Town's stone walls, all the spirit chi professionals who could move raised their hands high and forgot their pain. They waved their hands to express their gratitude to the young celestial. What else was there to rejoice about being saved from certain death? After dealing with the Class 2 swamp dimensional lifeform tide, the slaughter sky butterfly landed on Lin Yuan's body. Then it turned into the size of a fingernail and landed on Lin Yuan's lapel. The slaughter sky butterfly's milky blue butterfly wings matched with Lin Yuan's blue and white spirit chi clothes, making it impossible for people to ignore the slaughter sky butterfly's existence. Without saying a word, Lin Yuan waved his hand, and a green light beam landed on Zhao Su's body from his palm. The moment this green light beam landed on Zhao Su's body, Zhao Su realized that the scars caused by the beetle's energy beams had already recovered. However, what made Zhao Su a little sad was that when the beetle's energy beams had attacked him, 4 of the beetle's energy beams had coincidentally hit his index finger, causing his index finger's knuckles to explode and distort. Chapter 926. Although his index finger was still attached to some flesh, it was no different from being cut off. Zhao Su, who was a spirit guard, knew that even a king-class healer would not be able to heal such an injury. However, when Zhao Su realized that the burn scars on his body had disappeared, he suddenly realized that his broken index finger could move freely. It was as though his broken finger had just been an illusion. After Zhao Su's injuries healed, the green light in Lin Yuan's hand passed through Zhao Su's body and split into dozens of green ribbons. Dozens of green ribbons shuttled through the bodies of all the spirit chi professionals on the battlefield and weaved into a green net that could take away pain. Even Lu Lang, who was about to lose his will, opened his eyes in the green net. Lu Lang opened his eyes and subconsciously sat up. In a daze he saw Lin Yuan's figure and chin. Lu Lang subconsciously shouted, "Black." Upon hearing this, Lin Yuan's expression froze and thought to himself, "I'm not wearing a mask this time. How can I be recognized?" When Lin Yuan looked in the direction of the voice, he realized that it was really a coincidence. Wasn't this young man who had called him Black, the healing-type spirit chi professional who had fought alongside him against the insect tide in Millstone Town? It seemed that this healing-type spirit chi professional, Lu Lang, had made considerable progress during this period. The bronze-spitting turtledove had evolved into a saliva river turtledove after reaching silver. Just as Lin Yuan was wondering if he should respond to Lu Lang's Black, Lu Lang stood up and grinned awkwardly. "Sorry, I got the wrong person. Your face isn't censored, so you shouldn't be my idol. But your chin is very similar to my idol's." Lu Lang had already recognized the youth in front of him. Wasn't this youth Lin Yuan, who had defeated Meng Su in the All-Star match? Since then, people had been comparing Lin Yuan to Black on Star Web. It was inevitable that Star Web netizens would compare Black and Lin Yuan. As the owner of Black's fan group, Lu Lang would naturally respond accordingly. Lu Lang was rather embarrassed. Lin Yuan had just saved his life, but he had resisted Lin Yuan's fans on Star Web more than once. This awkward feeling made Lu Lang feel as though his horse had disappeared. When Lin Yuan heard Lu Lang's words, he raised his brows. It seemed like he had thought for nothing just now. After Lin Yuan relied on the Jasmine Lily's bud of Mountain Jade to heal all the spirit chi professionals present, he said to everyone present, "A group of creation masters will be rushing over in a while. If your phase have damaged roots, you can look for the creation masters sent by Ascending Dragon City Lordess, Long Xiao." After saying that, Lin Yuan found many holes in Zhao Su's clothes from the beetle's energy rays. Zhao Su was standing in front of the beetle when it launched its attack. In order to protect the spirit chi professional behind him, Zhao Su did not dodge the beetle's energy ray. He had even purposely blocked a lot of attacks for the spirit chi professionals behind him. Even though Zhao Su had recovered from his injuries, his clothes were still riddled with holes, and he looked rather pathetic. Lin Yuan had originally been 1.78 meters tall, but he had grown to 1.8 meters now, which was about the same height as Zhao Su. Every time Lin Yuan grew a little taller, she would modify the spirit chi clothing that he had previously made. Therefore, Zhao Su could wear Lin Yuan's clothes. Lin Yuan took out a set of black spirit chi clothing from the diamond face storage box and handed it to Zhao Su. "Change your clothes." Zhao Su was just about to refuse, but a gust of wind blew past him and made him feel a little cold under his legs. Zhao Su lowered his head and quickly looked up. He thanked Lin Yuan with a blushing face and took the clothes that Lin Yuan handed over. Lin Yuan had a very good impression of Zhao Su. Not every spirit guard was like Zhao Su, who could return after reporting to the spirit guards about the dimensional rift and use their lives as a rock to protect it. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the spirit chi professionals present quickly expressed their gratitude to Lin Yuan. However, Lu Lang's eyes were wide open as he looked at Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan's voice was simply too similar to the voice in Lu Lang's memory. Lu Lang couldn't help but make a ridiculous guess in his heart. Could Lin Yuan and Black be the same person? Could Lin Yuan be Black without the mask? Or could Black be Lin Yuan with the mask? However, as soon as this thought appeared, Lu Lang subconsciously suppressed it. If that was really the case, wouldn't it be the same as using the left hand to hit the right hand if he led Black's fans to counterattack Lin Yuan's fans? Lu Lang would never admit to such a situation. After resolving Millstone Town's predicament, Lin Yuan was ready to head to the Class 2 Swamp Dimensional Rift not far away. Lin Yuan first let the slaughter butterfly withdraw its aura and removed its control over the 4 Class 4 swamp crocodiles and the Medusa giant lizard. After the Medusa giant lizard broke away from the slaughter butterfly's aura, it was very afraid of the slaughter butterfly and did not dare to go forward. However, when it saw the 4 Class 4 swamp crocodiles struggling to get up and ready to continue charging forward, the Medusa giant lizard immediately raised its claws. It used its sharp claws, sharp teeth, and massive body to brutally kill the 4 Class 4 swamp crocodiles and devour them. Upon seeing this scene, Lin Yuan nodded. From the Medusa giant lizard's fearful expression, it could be seen that the Class 4 Medusa giant lizard's intelligence was much higher than the Class 4 swamp crocodiles. At the same time, Lin Yuan was rather satisfied with the Medusa giant lizard's strength and cruelty. Lin Yuan was going to bring the Medusa giant lizard to the swamp dimensional world to rear it. If it was not strong and cruel enough, the Medusa giant lizard would probably be killed by the other swamp dimensional life forms in the swamp world. Lin Yuan took out a large iron cage made of platinum strong steel from the leaf-shaped diamond face storage box. He then let the slaughter butterfly force the Medusa giant lizard to crawl in. After the Medusa giant lizard crawled in, Lin Yuan locked the large iron cage door. He then stored the Medusa giant lizard in the leaf-shaped diamond face storage box that contained a large number of dimensional lifeforms' bloodlines. Lin Yuan had used the iron cage to lock the Medusa giant lizard up because he was afraid that it would cause damage in the leaf-shaped diamond face storage box. Such a transportation method of loading iron cages was rather common when transporting some phase that were more aggressive. After handling the Medusa giant lizard perfectly, Lin Yuan continued to ride on the slaughter butterfly and rushed toward the Class 2 swamp dimensional rift while everyone was sending him off. Even if Lu Lang forcibly suppressed the speculation in his heart, he still felt that it was very likely to be true. This was because Lin Yuan had used the same healing ability as Black. This meant that Lin Yuan was also a healing-type spirit chi professional like Black. The second was even more terrifying. End of this chapter. Chapter 927. Thinking of this, Lu Lang could not help but feel embarrassed. His idol, Black, did not seem to be a proper spirit chi professional. When it fought, it was like a Medusa giant lizard that had just eaten a swamp crocodile. Lu Lang had once received Black's treatment. Although it wasn't as comfortable as when Black had treated him, which made him want to cry out, it was much stronger. However, how could 2 young geniuses who were healing-type spirit chi professionals appear so easily in this world? Recalling the butterfly species Fei that Lin Yuan had just ridden, Wanderer turned to ask Zhao Su, who was standing beside him. Big brother Zhao, what grade is the butterfly Fei that Lin Yuan was riding? He actually used his aura to stop the Class 2 swamp dimensional creature tide. Could it be a myth breed Fei? Zhao Su rubbed his nose and said softly. Didn't you see that the Medusa giant lizard was also forced to stop by the butterfly Fei's aura? This isn't as simple as stopping the Class 2 swamp dimensional creature tide. We met a real benefactor today. If I'm not wrong, that butterfly should be above the mythical stage. When Lu Lang heard the words mythological, he felt his head go dizzy. Lu Lang had only heard of myth breed Feis and had never seen them before, let alone existences above myth. This butterfly Fei that was above the mythical stage made Lu Lang suppress his guesses. If Black was Lin Yuan, he would have summoned this butterfly Fei above the myth stage in Millstone Town. There was no need to expend any effort to bloom that beautiful sea of flowers. Lin Yuan didn't know what Lu Lang was thinking, but he had already entered the Class 2 Swamp Dimensional Rift's entrance and entered the Class 2 Swamp Dimensional World. After entering the Class 2 Swamp Dimensional Rift, the butchering sky butterfly immediately started a massacre. Waves of milky blue butterfly shadows reaped all the living beings in the Class 2 Swamp World and led Lin Yuan to search for the location of the Dimensional Hub. He had never entered the Swamp Dimensional Rift before. After entering it, he found that its environment was similar to the Radiance Federation's wetland environment in the main world. In the vicinity of Redbud City's Xia region, there were wetlands of all sizes. The swamp in the Swamp Dimensional Rift was also different from what Lin Yuan had imagined. He had always thought that the Swamp Dimensional Rift would be filled with all sorts of damp and decaying odors. A large number of swamp dimensional creatures died and rotted in the swamp, attracting many scavenging insects. However, from the looks of it, apart from the Swamp Dimensional Rift's somewhat turbid swamp, The rest of the places could be described as clean. Standing on the slaughter sky butterfly's back, Lin Yuan found all kinds of large, carrion-eating mushrooms everywhere in the swamp dimensional rift. The life forms formed by these bacterial colonies were the most effective decomposers of dead individuals. With these mushrooms, as long as a dimensional life form died in the swamp dimensional rift and wasn't eaten by other life forms within a day, they would die. His body would be covered with mushrooms and decomposed by the mushrooms. This was probably the reason why the environment inside the swamp dimensional rift was so clean. These carrion-eating mushrooms that could be seen everywhere made Lin Yuan rather happy. After all, the environment of the swamp world could be seen from the environment of the swamp world. A clean environment was always more comfortable to develop than a dirty one. However, this seemingly comfortable environment was actually a scene of life and death killings. Lin Yuan saw many carnivorous plants growing at the edge of the swamp using their fruits as meat bait to prey on smaller insects like beetles. Some powerful carnivorous plants would even use their vines to capture large dimensional life forms like the swamp crocodiles, treating them as their own food. In the swamp dimensional rift, carnivorous plants had always occupied the upper positions of the food chain. They used their plant bodies to suppress most of the swamp dimensional life forms. Lin Yuan felt that the carnivorous plants could develop so well in the swamp dimensional rift because of the environment and the rich swamp soil in it. On the slaughter sky butterfly's back, Lin Yuan found a few areas where a large number of swamp crocodiles were squeezed together. After Lin Yuan ordered the slaughter sky butterfly to kill the swamp crocodiles, he plunged into the swamp. He dived to the bottom of the swamp, which was nearly 10 meters deep, and started to dig. Lin Yuan soon dug out a piece of dark green jelly-like soil. This soil was the swamp soil, a specialty of the swamp dimensional rift. It was very easy to search for swamp soil in the swamp dimensional rift. Swamp soil would usually be found in places where swamp crocodiles gathered in large numbers. However, if he wanted to dig up the mud under the swamp, he would need to be strong enough to get rid of the swamp crocodiles. In the entire Class 2 swamp dimensional rift, Lin Yuan had only collected 2 pieces of mid-grade swamp soil. One of them was the green ink soil and the other was the sand habitat soil. The green ink soil was suitable to be placed in the lotus pond to nurture all kinds of aquatic plant phase. It could increase their growth speed and development state. Sandy soil was suitable for cultivating desert plants in arid environments. Between these 2 types of mid-grade swamp soil, the green ink soil was more valuable. This swamp soil was also the main material that he would collect when developing the swamp world in the future. Soon, he found the location of the dimensional hub under the slaughter sky butterfly's lead. When he arrived at the dimensional hub, he did not immediately take out the 2 source-type items. Instead, he asked Morbius through his spiritual energy. Morbius, I found the dimensional hub that connects to the swamp world. What should I do next? Morbius said. Lin Yuan, since you've found the dimensional hub, leave the rest to me. Just as Morbius finished speaking, a copper-colored ray of light poured out from the Morbius band. Finally, the copper-colored light materialized into the Klein hub in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. The Klein hub was sandwiched between the dimensional hub that led to the swamp world and embedded the hub that led to the swamp world inside the Klein hub. The dimensional hub, which could not be moved by anyone in the dimensional rift, disappeared into the swamp dimensional rift. Just as Lin Yuan bent over to pick up the 2 source-type items on the ground, the Class 2 swamp dimensional rift spat them out as though it had eaten black garlic. At that moment, Morbius' voice echoed in Lin Yuan's mind. Lin Yuan, the Klein hub is now bound to the swamp world. You can now go to the swamp world through the Spirit Lock spatial zone at any time. After being spat out of the Class 2 swamp dimensional rift, Lin Yuan was about to enter the Spirit Lock spatial zone to investigate when he noticed Ascending Dragon City's city lordess, Long Xiao, standing nearby. There were no Ascending Dragon guards or spirit guards guarding Long Xiao. This meant that Long Xiao knew his schedule and was waiting for him here. At that moment, Long Xiao walked over and extended his right hand toward Lin Yuan. While Lin Yuan was puzzled, he saw that Long Xiao was holding the 2 badges that he had thrown over earlier. Lin Yuan hurriedly took the 2 crests from Long Xiao's hand in embarrassment and said, "Thank you. City Lord, this junior was careless. I forgot to take these 2 badges when I left. I'll have to trouble the City Lord to deliver it to me. I'm truly sorry." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Long Xiao's expression froze, and he suddenly looked at Lin Yuan with something more than before. One of these badges represented status, while the other represented strength and glory. The young man in front of him had already disregarded his own identity and honor when he was protecting the city. What kind of character, breadth of mind and zeal was this? There was no need to worry that such a young man's body would not be able to light up the heavens. With such a young man around, Wuxia would not have to worry about not being able to stand tall for ages. Chapter 3. Sob, sob, sob. Everyone felt that it would be better if the world in this book was bigger. It would be fine as long as it was now. End of this chapter. Chapter 928. When Long Xiao heard Lin Yuan address him as Lord and Junior, he knew that Lin Yuan was not concealing his identity as the Moon Empress disciple. Lin Yuan's words reflected sufficient respect for him. However, Long Xiao felt his liver tremble when he accepted such respect. Long Xiao was the city lord of Ascending Dragon City and came from the Coiling Dragon Valley. He was a core branch member that had the same status as the direct descendants. After seeing the radiant metal and the Class 2 Creation Master crest engraved with the moon totem that Lin Yuan had thrown over, Long Xiao personally dispatched a group of low-class Creation Masters according to Lin Yuan's instructions. He then contacted his cousin, the Coiling Dragon Valley's current patriarch, Long Tu, and told him about Lin Yuan's situation. He did not expect Lin Yuan to have a close relationship with his cousin, Long Tao, and to be on good terms with the Coiling Dragon Valley. Therefore, Long Xiao had decided to personally make a trip to deliver the Radiant Light Medal and the Class 2 Creation Master Medal with the Moon Totem. Otherwise, even if Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple, Long Xiao, as the city lord of Ascending Dragon City, did not have to make this trip during this special period. Now, Lin Yuan addressed himself as a junior in front of him and treated him as a junior. However, Long Xiao did not dare to be careless when addressing Lin Yuan. Lord, a total of 5 Creation Masters have come to Millstone Town this time. There are 2 Class 2 Creation Masters and 2 Class 3 Creation Masters. These 5 Creation Masters will be stationed in Millstone Town for a few days. In about 2 to 3 days, this low-class Creation Master team will be able to heal all the Fays with damaged roots in Millstone Town. I heard from the Millstone Town's Guild Alliance branch's old president that you left behind a Medusa monitor. If you wish to nurture the swamp dimensional life form, the Medusa monitor, you will definitely need the Medusa snake demon's heart, blood and eyes. After saying that, Long Xiao handed a diamond face storage box to Lin Yuan. Seeing that Lin Yuan had no intention to take it, Long Xiao spoke again. If you did not rush to Millstone Town in advance, the Class 2 Swamp Dimensional Rift's lifeform tide would have completely destroyed Millstone Town. The women, children, and ordinary people in Millstone Town's survivor fortress would not have a chance to survive. As the city lord of Ascending Dragon City, this is my personal thanks to you for protecting Millstone Town. Furthermore, Ascending Dragon City is one of the top cities in the Swamp Dimensional Rift. There are plenty of spiritual ingredients disassembled from the Swamp Dimensional life forms in Ascending Dragon City's treasury. My lord, you don't have to be so polite. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan reached out to take the diamond face storage box that Long Xiao handed to him. Lin Yuan's original plan was to immediately log on to Star Web to buy 3 sets of Medusa's heart's blood and eyes after exiting the Class 2 Swamp Dimensional Rift. Now that the Class 2 Swamp Dimensional Rift had vanished and the spatial zone had returned to normal, he could log onto the Star Web and purchase items from the Rare Lifeform Pavilion. Lin Yuan sent his current location over. Within 3 hours, Ostrich Logistics would be able to deliver the Medusa's heart, blood and eyeballs that he had purchased from the Star Web Rare Lifeform Pavilion. Medusa's heart's blood and eyeballs were spiritual materials produced from the swamp dimensional creature, Medusa. Due to the rarity and power of the Medusa snake demon, the price of the Medusa's eyes and heart's blood had always been high. However, the Medusa snake demon was ultimately a creature produced in the swamp dimensional rift. Even if the Medusa's eyeballs and heart's blood were rare, they were far from the point of being priceless. In order to make a ferocious and cruel swamp dimensional creature like the Medusa giant lizard submit, one needed the Medusa's eyes and heart's blood. A dimensional creature like the Medusa giant lizard was born to be the Medusa snake demon's guard and had an extremely fanatical loyalty to the Medusa snake demon. After the Class 5 Fey Observer's research, this loyalty was found to be attracted by the Medusa's eyeballs and heart's blood. The spirit chi professional only needed to hold the Medusa's eyeball and extract the liquid inside. Then he would cut his palm and mix the blood flowing out of the palm, the liquid inside the Medusa's eyeball, and the Medusa's heart's blood for the Medusa giant lizard to consume. The smell of the spirit chi professional's blood would leave an impression in the Medusa giant lizard's mind along with the smell of the Medusa's heart and heart. To a certain extent, it would make the Medusa giant lizard regard the spirit chi professional who provided the blood as a Medusa snake demon. However, just one operation was not enough to make the Medusa giant lizard have a deep impression of the spirit chi professional who provided the blood. Although the Medusa giant lizard would not take the initiative to attack based on the aura of the blood, it was not enough to reach the level of submission. However, as long as this step was repeated 3 times, the Medusa giant lizard would remember the aura of the spirit chi professional who provided the blood. Under the guidance of the Medusa's eyeball and heart's blood, it would regard the person who provided the blood as the Medusa giant lizard that it would follow and protect for life. At the same time, the Medusa giant lizard had another nature, which was to submit to a Medusa giant lizard. Not only would it not be attracted to other Medusa giant lizards, but it would also be extremely hostile to other Medusa giant lizards. It would even take the initiative to kill Medusa giant lizards to protect their master's safety. This nature made it so that once the Medusa giant lizard recognized a master, it would not be attracted by other Medusa giant lizards and betray them. Thank you, City Lord. It just so happens that I don't have to buy the Medusa's eyeball and heart's blood on Star Web anymore. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Long Xiao replied with a smile. If you need the resources produced in the Swamp Dimensional Rift in the future, just let me know. Ascending Dragon City has accumulated a lot of these resources. Lin Yuan shook his head. The Klein Hub and Morbius Spirit Lock Spatial Zone was directly connected to the Swamp World. The Swamp World had resources that the Swamp Dimensional Rift simply could not compare to. Therefore, Lin Yuan would probably become the person in the Radiance Federation who had the least lack of resources from the Swamp Dimensional Rift in the future. Upon seeing Lin Yuan shake his head, Long Xiao did not mind. As the Moon Empress disciple, Lin Yuan could have anything he wanted. Naturally, he would not lack resources produced in the Swamp Dimensional Rift. However, Long Xiao had another purpose for saying this. As Ascending Dragon City's City Lord, the Ascending Dragon Guards could be said to be his direct troops. During the few months when the Dimensional Rift had been active, the Ascending Dragon Guards had suffered many casualties. They urgently needed a large number of high-quality bronze phase to be poured into the Ascending Dragon Guards to restore the scale before the Dimensional Rift had been active. During the call, Long Xiao had heard from his cousin Long Tu that Lin Yuan had been collecting Law Origin crystals. The number of Law Origin crystals hoarded in Ascending Dragon City was indeed not small, dozens of times more than the accumulation in the Coiling Dragon Valley. It would be great if he could use these useless Law Origin crystals to exchange for some high-quality bronze phase. The first was even better. End of this chapter. Chapter 929. Long Xiao said to Lin Yuan, "My lord, I heard that you need Law Origin crystals. My lord, I heard that you need Law Origin crystals. I wonder if my Ascending Dragon City can use Law Origin crystals to exchange for a batch of high-quality bronze phase?" Long Xiao was not bashful when he spoke. He just wanted to make a deal with Lin Yuan. Naturally, he had to pay for a deal. If he could not reach a deal with Lin Yuan, he could think of other ways. However, other ways might not be able to obtain a batch of high-quality bronze phase in a short time. This would lead to more casualties among the Ascending Dragon Guards during the closing phase of the Dimensional Rift. Lin Yuan raised his eyebrows. His speed of enhancing bronze/epic phase was already very fast. Now that the spirit chi concentration in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone had increased by 10 times, his speed of enhancing phase had also increased. Therefore, Lin Yuan could easily complete a deal like Long Xiao's. When he had previously traded with the Indigo Azure Guard captain through Duan He, Lin Yuan had felt that providing high-quality bronze phase for these big city guards was a good way to collect Law Origin crystals. However, Lin Yuan had not thought of how to open up this channel. Now that Ascending Dragon City Lord Long Xiao had taken the initiative to propose it, Lin Yuan naturally had no reason to refuse. Lin Yuan's method of collecting Law Origin crystals in the Coiling Dragon Valley and the Dawn Cloud Avian Niche through the Golden Lotus Brocade could not be applied to the various big cities. Compared to the Golden Lotus Brocade, the various big cities that did not have high-grade creation masters preferred high-quality bronze phase that could be contracted directly. If Lin Yuan could reach an agreement with Long Xiao, he could do 2 things at the same time. He could collect Law Origin crystals from various major factions and big cities at the same time. Seeing that Lin Yuan had not said anything, Long Xiao thought that this deal might have fallen through. Before Long Xiao could change the topic, Lin Yuan said, "I might as well tell the City Lord the address now. I might as well tell the City Lord the address now. If the City Lord wants to enhance phase, just mail them to me through Ostrich Logistics. I will turn all the mailed phase into bronze/epic phase and mail them back to you through Ostrich Logistics. That way you can choose whatever phase you need to nurture. If possible, I hope to maintain a long-term cooperation with the City Lord, and not this kind of one-time transaction." Long Xiao was overjoyed. Equipping the Ascending Dragon Guards with Fays had always been a difficult problem for him as the city lord. Ascending Dragon City was one of the 36 major cities, and Ascending Dragon City's lord, Long Shao, was managed by His Majesty Cicada Cry. Every year, His Majesty Cicada Cry would provide Ascending Dragon City with a large amount of resources. However, after deducting the Ascending Dragon City's construction and various other expenses, the resources left for the Ascending Dragon Guards to equip Fays were already very limited. These resources were only enough to equip the Ascending Dragon Guards with Bronze/Flawless Fays. However, a Bronze/Flawless Fay was clearly unable to meet Long Xiao's expectations. Long Xiao was born in the Coiling Dragon Valley, but now that he had ascended to the position of the Ascending Dragon City's city lord, he couldn't just take resources from the Coiling Dragon Valley to satisfy the Ascending Dragon Guard's spiritual needs. If Long Xiao were to cooperate with the Coiled Dragon Valley according to the market price, he would not be able to afford the high price of 40 million Radiance dollars per Bronze/Epic Fay. Now, Lin Yuan's words had completely solved one of Long Xiao's problems. In Long Xiao's opinion, exchanging useless Law Origin crystals for Bronze/Epic Fays was profitable no matter how he looked at it. Since it's a long-term cooperation, I have to show my sincerity. Each ordinary Bronze/Epic Fay costs 3 Law Origin crystals. If you enhance the White Speed Hunting Dragon to Bronze/Epic, I can give you 4 Law Origin crystals. If I'm lucky enough to let the White Speed Hunting Dragon grow a dragon crown at Bronze, I can pay 10 Law Origin crystals for each Bronze/Epic White Speed Hunting Dragon that grows a dragon crown. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan extended his hand without hesitation and said to Long Xiao, "City Lord, it's a deal." Upon seeing this, Long Xiao also extended his hand and patted Lin Yuan's raised palm. It's a deal. It could be said that the price offered by Ascending Dragon City Lord Long Xiao was almost the same as the price offered by the Indigo Azure Guard Captain. Ordinary Bronze/Epic Fays were priced at 3 Law Origin crystals. However, for the White Speed Hunting Dragon, which was a standard Fay of Ascending Dragon City, Long Xiao offered an additional Law Origin crystal. If he could induce the White Speed Hunting Dragon to grow a dragon crown at Bronze, he could also obtain a total of 10 Law Origin crystals. That was 3 times the price of nurturing an ordinary Bronze/Epic Fay. The White Speed Hunting Dragon was a standard Fay of Ascending Dragon City and Indigo Azure City's healing-type Fay, the Hot Spring Slug. The White Speed Hunting Dragon was a power offense-type Fay that excelled in speed and burst. In addition, the White Speed Hunting Dragon also had the excellent bloodline of the Velociraptor, a dinosaur species Fay. It was considered a dinosaur species Fay with great talent. It should be because the White Speed Hunting Dragon that was not contracted by a Spirit Chi professional was too fierce, which was why Long Tu was willing to pay an additional Law Origin crystal. If the White Speed Hunting Dragon wanted to grow a crown, it needed to stimulate the Velociraptor bloodline in its body at Bronze. This might be a little difficult for other creation masters, but it was very simple for Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan only needed to use some Silver Dinosaur Phase Essence blood and pure Spirit Chi to successfully stimulate the White Speed Hunting Dragon's Velociraptor bloodline in the dinosaur species during the process of raising its quality. Therefore, if Long Xiao really sent the White Speed Hunting Dragon over, Lin Yuan planned to let each White Speed Hunting Dragon grow a crown before sending it back to Long Xiao. This way, Lin Yuan could obtain an additional 6 Law Origin crystals for each White Speed Hunting Dragon. Since Long Xiao was willing to offer a high price for a White Speed Hunting Dragon that grew a crown, it meant that he was very eager to get a White Speed Hunting Dragon with a crown. Since he had decided to let each White Speed Hunting Dragon grow a crown, Lin Yuan simply said, "Okay, I'll try my best to let each White Speed Hunting Dragon grow a crown. When I'm nurturing the White Speed Hunting Dragon, I'll strive to make every White Speed Hunting Dragon satisfy the city lord." After finalizing the cooperation with Long Xiao, Lin Yuan declined Long Xiao's invitation to have dinner with him. After looking at the time, Lin Yuan did not choose to enter the swamp dimensional world through Klein Hub according to his original plan. Instead, he used the ethereal jellyfish's ability node to teleport back to the mansion. After all, Lin Yuan had promised Lu Jie over the phone that he would return to the mansion for dinner. If he returned late because of exploring the swamp world, his partners waiting for him in the mansion would be worried. When Lin Yuan returned to the mansion and entered the main residence, he found Lu Jie serving plates of cooked delicacies to the table. Wen Yu, Endless Summer, and Chu Ci were playing with the Fey cards together. At that moment, Chu Ci and Endless Summer's faces were covered with paper slips, while Wen Yu's face was empty. Chapter 930. It was clear that Chu Si and Endless Summer had not won a single round in the Fey tablet. Upon seeing Lin Yuan return, Chu Si hurriedly threw down the Fey card in her hand to avoid the tragedy of having another note stuck on her face. "Brother, Master's going to bring me to the dimensional rift to train tomorrow. We might be training until school reopens." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan reached out to rub the hair on the top of her head and took off the note on her face. "If you're training, be careful. Don't force yourself. If you encounter any problems, just tell Aunt Song. I have transferred quite a lot of money to your Star Web card. Don't be stingy when you return to the Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy after the training. I'll prepare the daily spirit materials for the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull, Yellow Jade Golden Butterfly, and Burning Sunflower Gemini for you tonight. Be careful not to get hurt when you fight with the seniors during the practical class." Chu Si smiled sweetly when she heard Lin Yuan's instructions, but she said, "Don't worry. Yuan, don't worry." In her memory, every time she left Lin Yuan's side to go to school, he would constantly exhort her. Then he meticulously prepared the things he needed during this period of school. It had been like this when Lin Yuan's shoulders were thin and weak, and it was still the same now that his shoulders were broad and thick. She felt that she would always be a child who would never grow up. A rebellious child who had never had to worry about food and clothing might find this feeling very annoying, but she cherished every word of Lin Yuan's nagging. Every word of Lin Yuan's nagging contained his love for her. When you heard Lin Yuan's nagging, a warm smile appeared on her face. "I'm going to the kitchen to help Brother Lu. Tonight is to celebrate Brother Lu and young master winning the martial arts competition and the civil and military competition respectively. Secondly, it's also for Chu Si's training outside. Big Brother Lu made a total of 20 dishes. In a while, Pinru Zhang Xiaobai, Master Hong Xin, Listen Zhou Luo Duan He and the others will also come." After saying that, Wen Yu hurried to help Lu Jie serve the dishes. Lin Yuan blinked when he heard Wen Yu's words. She called Zhang Xiaobai by his full name, but she only called Lu Pinru by her first name. Since when did Lu Pinru and Wen Yu have such a good relationship? Was it because he had been in seclusion all this time that he hadn't noticed? Endless Summer also put down the cards in her hand and walked to Lin Yuan's side. "Lin Yuan, I have already formed a contract with the sacred source life form you gave me." After saying that, Endless Summer circulated its soul spirit power, and Lin Yuan saw a tender grass burrowing out of Endless Summer's palm. The moment the tender grass burrowed into Endless Summer's palm, Lin Yuan felt the princess in his mind throb. Lin Yuan could also feel the unique aura of a sacred source life form. The aura unique to sacred source life forms could only be sensed by those who had contracted the sacred source life form. Wen Yu and Lu Jie, who were busy serving dishes in the kitchen, also looked in Endless Summer's direction. Lin Yuan looked at Endless Summer's palm and realized that the sacred source life form, which looked like a blade of grass, gave off the feeling of a solitary orchid grows in a secluded garden, and all the weeds perish together. Upon closer inspection, there was a special charm to it. This kind of charm was like that of a gentleman, unbending and unbending. The grass and leaves were strong and full of vitality. It was as if a blade of grass was carrying the weight of mountains and rivers. Endless Summer said to Lin Yuan while fiddling with the grass in her palm. "Lin Yuan, my sacred source life form is called Arakawa Orchid. Arakawa Orchid should be a support-type sacred source life form. If Arakawa Orchid's function is developed, it will be enough for me to have an almost endless life force and recovery ability. But this Arakawa Aranya needs too much space to develop, and it will cause irreversible damage to the environment." Endless Summer let out a soft sigh as she spoke. Too difficult. Although Endless Summer liked the Arakawa Orchid sprout very much, it felt that it had let Lin Yuan down after seeing its abilities. The poor development of the Arakawa Orchid sprout made it difficult for Endless Summer to use the sacred source life form to help Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan, who was listening to Endless Summer's sigh, had already used Morbius True Data to check on the Arakawa Orchid in Endless Summer's hands. Sacred source name: Arakawa Rana, Sacred Source Species. Origin Family / Sacred Source Species, Sacred Source Star Grade, 1 star, Sacred Source Type. Wood / Life Functions: Frowny Face Twin Orchid Branches. The Arakawa Orchid sprout is suitable for growing on fertile land. The growing Arakawa Orchid sprout will grow underground roots that cover a large area. It will absorb the nutrients in the soil and convert them into vitality, which is stored in the body. It will bloom into orchids and bear orchids. After bearing orchids, the Arakawa Orchid sprout will grow new Arakawa Orchid sprout individuals from the accelerated roots. The Arakawa Orchid sprout will lock the energy in the soil within the range of its extended roots, allowing the nutrients in the soil covered by the roots to exceed quantity. The Arakawa orchid sprout can replenish its stored vitality into the contractor's body at any time. 1. Orchid leaf state. The vitality in the orchid leaves has tenacious characteristics. Energy rich and tenacious characteristics can be injected into the contractor's body to increase the contractor's defense. 2. Orchid state. The orchid petals contain vitality extracted from the soil. The vitality in the petals can be injected into other life forms to speed up the recovery of the life form's injuries. 3. Orchid fruit state. Each orchid sprout will only produce one fruit. The orchid fruit will store the contractor's soul aura. When the contractor's soul is injured, the orchid fruit can use the stored soul aura to heal the contractor's injured soul. Lin Yuan did not know what to say when he looked at Endless Summer's sacred source life form, the Arakawa orchid sprout. He finally understood why Endless Summer dared to say that having the Arakawa orchid sprout was equivalent to having endless vitality. The Arakawa orchid sprout's orchid leaf, orchid, and orchid fruit state not only allowed Endless Summer to have endless vitality, but it also increased its defense. It allowed Endless Summer to use the Arakawa orchid sprout's orchid state to heal other life forms. It also allowed Endless Summer to not be afraid of injuries to the soul. It could be said that the Arakawa orchid sprout allowed Endless Summer, a support-type creation breed Fae, to obtain healing abilities. The healing abilities allowed Endless Summer's value to increase by dozens of times. Healing-type Spirit Chi professionals were much rarer than combat-type Spirit Chi professionals. At the Emperor-class experts level, healing-type Spirit Chi professionals were already as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. Let alone Emperor-class experts. Emperor-class healing-type Spirit Chi professionals had a transcendent status among Emperor-class experts. Even though their status was still far from that of a Class 5 creation master, it was still much higher than other Emperor-class experts. It could be said that the sacred source life form Arakawa orchid sprout was already not a loss for Endless Summer to obtain healing abilities. Endless Summer, who was an Emperor-class healer, was now very difficult to kill with the massive vitality replenishment. Unless the accumulated vitality of the Arakawa orchid sprout was exhausted. As for the Arakawa orchid sprout that Endless Summer said was difficult to develop, it was simply because it was difficult to find a suitable place to grow in the origin world. If it was in the past, Lin Yuan would also be troubled by this place. However, Morbius' exclusive skill Klein Hub was directly connected to the swamp world. What place was more suitable than the swamp world's fertile soil for the Arakawa orchid sprout to grow? Chapter 931. Lin Yuan did not know if everything was fated or just a coincidence. Endless Summer had obtained the sacred source life form Arakawa orchid at the same time as Morbius had obtained the exclusive skill Klein Hub. He had also chosen to let the Klein Hub lead to the swamp world. According to the description of the true data, Arakawa orchid sprout would rob the soil of a large amount of nutrients. This plundering of the soil's nutrients was devastating to the phase that relied on the soil to survive. If Endless Summer planted Arakawa orchid in the depths of the Endless Forest, the Endless Forest could indeed support the growth of the sacred source life form Arakawa orchid. But as Arakawa orchid sprout continued to absorb the nutrients in the soil, it grew more and more branches. The entire Endless Forest would become a barren wasteland due to the loss of nutrients in the soil. Such a situation would cause a massive death of various Fays in the depths of the Endless Forest. Avian Fays with the ability to move might be able to migrate to places where the nutrients in the soil had not been plundered by the Arakawa orchid sprout. However, plant species Fays were destined to die on the spot due to the loss of nutrients in the soil. If such a vicious problem really did occur, the spirit guards would have to deal with it. From a certain perspective, Endless Summer's sacred source life form, the Arakawa orchid sprout's growth method was similar to the sea burial lotus flower, which was still a carcinoma Fey. However, the sea burial lotus flower absorbed the spiritual energy in the seabed, while the Arakawa orchid sprout absorbed the nutrients in the soil. Therefore, the growth of a sacred source life form like Arakawa orchid in the origin world was too harmful to the environment. This was probably the main reason why Endless Summer sighed. Endless Summer, which had grown from an ordinary hydrangea flower step by step, understood how difficult it was for a low-grade plant Fey. Endless Summer would not allow those weak plant Fays to die in droves just to nurture its own sacred source life forms. Fortunately, there was the swamp world. The problem of cultivating the sacred source life form Arakawa orchid was easily solved. Lin Yuan said, "I have a place for you to plant Arakawa orchid sprout. At that place, Arakawa orchid sprout will quickly grow into twin orchid branches. In addition to nutrient-rich soil, are there any other things to pay attention to when cultivating Arakawa orchid sprout? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Endless Summer's face suddenly lit up. He did not expect that the problem that he had been vexing about ever since he had contracted Arakawa Lanya would be easily solved the moment he said it. Endless Summer might not know where the place that Lin Yuan was talking about was, but she knew that Lin Yuan would never say something that he was not confident of. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's question, Endless Summer quickly explained the matter of nurturing the Arakawa orchid sprout. While Arakawa orchid sprout absorbs nutrients from the soil, it also absorbs a large amount of water, causing the soil to dry up and crack. That's why the Arakawa orchid sprout needs to be replenished with water. At the same time, the Arakawa orchid sprout is very fragile. As long as its roots are dug out of the soil or its stem is broken, it will quickly wither. That's why it takes a lot of effort to nurture it. Endless Summer had an awkward expression on her face as she spoke. It could be said that Arakawa orchid, the sacred source life form that she had contracted, was a true mistress. She needed someone to take care of her at all times. By the time Arakawa orchid grew to a certain size, who knew how much water it would need to be watered every day? Even if Endless Summer was a creation seed fae, as long as she could not wholeheartedly take care of the Arakawa orchid sprout at all times. Once something happened, even if a normal fae dug up the soil, it might have a huge impact on the sacred source life form. At the same time, the Arakawa orchid sprout was a plant that contained a huge amount of vitality and was extremely attractive to any life form. Any fae that saw it would want to take a bite. When Lin Yuan heard Endless Summer's words, he was not worried but happy. He did not expect that the sacred source life form would actually absorb a large amount of water during its growth. When Lin Yuan was in the Class 2 Swamp Dimensional Rift, he had realized that although the rift was 40% land, 40% of the land in the swamp world was not as solid as the land in the main world. The land in the swamp world was not as solid as the land in the main world. The land in the swamp world was formed by a large amount of mud piled together over a long period of time. Therefore, when Lin Yuan stepped on the land in the swamp world, even though he only weighed about 65 kilograms, his entire foot would still be in the mud. Even so, his entire foot would still be stuck in the mud up to his calf. Lin Yuan had been thinking about how to make the land in the swamp world drier when he developed it. Even if it was not as dry as the land in the main world, it would not reach his calf when he stepped on it. Now, it seemed that planting the Arakawa orchid sprout in the swamp world had saved him a lot of trouble. In the beginning, the Arakawa orchid sprout would not grow many branches from its roots, so it was not enough to improve the soil environment in the swamp world. However, after a long period of accumulation, the Arakawa orchid sprout's ability to improve the soil moisture of the swamp world's land would be reflected. Moreover, the Arakawa orchid sprout's water requirement was continuous. This way, even if the other parts of the swamp world's water rushed to the Arakawa orchid sprout to absorb water, there would not be any problem. At the same time, it would permanently remove the Arakawa orchid sprout's thirst for water. Endless Summer's sacred source life form might just be a delicate orchid, but its ability was worthy of the name Arakawa orchid sprout. As for the Arakawa orchid sprout that Endless Summer mentioned, it was even easier for Lin Yuan. The creation breed slaughter butterfly could go to the swamp world through the Klein hub in the Spirit Lock spatial zone at any time. Lin Yuan could let the slaughter butterfly stay in the swamp world and watch over the Arakawa orchid sprout. On the other hand, he could open up a territory to establish a foundation in the swamp world. Your two problems can be easily solved at the place I mentioned. I'll take you there tomorrow morning. While Lin Yuan and Endless Summer were talking, the mother of Bloodbath came down from upstairs. After returning to the mansion, the mother of Bloodbath had been cultivating non-stop to improve its strength. When Lin Yuan saw the mother of Bloodbath, he threw the sacred source life form he had just obtained from the civil and martial arenas to the mother of Bloodbath and said, "Mother of Bloodbath, this is my reward for getting first place in the civil and martial arenas. Once you become a creation breed, you can directly contract this sacred source life form. When you become a creation breed, you'll be able to form a contract with this sacred source life form." Another batch of blood brew grapes grown by the Heaven and Earth Fae blood brew grapevine has matured, and there are many old vine leaves that naturally fall. Chapter 932. At this point, Lin Yuan paused slightly and continued. The speed at which the blood brew grapevine produces blood brew grapes should be able to meet your blood energy requirements. As for the law crystals you need after advancing to Myth 3, I will also prepare them for you during this period of time. The mother of Bloodbath caught the sacred source life form that Lin Yuan had tossed over with mixed feelings. The mother of Bloodbath remembered that Lin Yuan had asked about sacred source lifeforms on the way to Indigo Azure City. At that time he only sighed. Even if it becomes a creation breed Fae, ordinary creation breed Faes are rarely qualified to obtain sacred source lifeforms. Creation breeds were the same as myth breeds from Realm 1 to Realm 3. There were detailed grades. However, the division of creation seeds was more detailed, from the creation lineage to the 8 lineages of creation. The classification of grades was also based on the number of Genesis Earth veins in the world of laws. The mother of Bloodbath had never heard of a wild Fae obtaining a sacred source lifeform before the Genesis 3 stages. Lin Yuan had given him a sacred source lifeform when he was still at Myth 2. The mother of Bloodbath, which had long desired sacred source lifeforms, knew very well how precious they were. Sacred source lifeforms could be traded for large amounts of resources in Lin Yuan's hands. Even if Lin Yuan had contracted a sacred source lifeform, an uncontracted sacred source lifeform would still be of great value in his hands. But now Lin Yuan had casually handed over a sacred source lifeform that was of immense value to him, and his words were filled with plans for his future. It could be said that he was now paving a path toward becoming a creation breed. At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath felt that Lin Yuan was not only able to make it feel at ease, it could also bring him an unparalleled sense of security. As a female spider, this was the first time the mother of Bloodbath had such a feeling. Just as the mother of Bloodbath was about to say something, Hu Quan and Master Hong Shen walked in with Zhang Xiaobai, Tan Ran, Lu Pinru and Xening. At first glance, it looked like 2 old miners leading 4 young miners. Upon seeing Lin Yuan, Hu Quan said excitedly, "Young master, we accidentally dug out a spring when we were excavating the underground space. When I first saw this spring, I thought there would be a problem with the underground excavation. I didn't expect this underground spring to be of the same origin as the hidden WIRM Lake spring. This way, if I want to nurture phase in the underground spatial zone, I won't need to draw water from the hidden WIRM Lake. At the same time, I can also use the pipes to direct the spring to the hidden Dragon Lake when I'm not collecting water. An additional spring can increase the circulation speed of the hidden Dragon Lake's water by several times. It's beneficial to both the angelfish of bliss and the sunshine monarch lotus living in the hidden Dragon Lake. The absolute freshness of the water coupled with the sea blue stone and sea vein stone embedded at the bottom of the lake washed over the rainbow fairy fish's clothes. It can cover the surface of the hidden Dragon Lake in a layer of 7-colored aurora all day long. Lin Yuan was pleasantly surprised to hear that. However, he did not spend much time on the underground space during this period. It was all thanks to Hu Quan. Master Hong Shen led the spirit craftsmen of the Heavenly Craft Pavilion to work day and night. Uncle Hu, Master Hong Shen has worked hard. When Master Hong Shen heard Lin Yuan's words, he turned to look at Hu Quan and felt that Hu Quan really knew how to apply what he had learned. When Hu Quan had first dug out the spring, he had been afraid that it would affect the underground space's structure. He had come up with a solution based on the mineral content of the water flowing out of the spring, which was of the same origin as the spring in the hidden Dragon Lake. What Hu Quan had just said to Lin Yuan seemed to be what he had said to comfort Hu Quan. However, Hu Quan's spirit craftsmanship had been thoroughly experienced during this period of working with Master Hong Shen. He was really strong. Although the underground space had only been excavated roughly, Hu Quan's carvings on the excavated stone walls made it look like a luxurious and noble underground palace. Zhang Xiaobai, Xening, Tan Ran, and Lu Pinru were really bored during this period. Therefore, after the 4 of them set up the Dome Guild Club, they took the initiative to look for Master Hong Shen and Hu Quan, wanting to go to the underground space to help. Once they got busy, Tan Ran, who looked like a Shota, opened the door to a new world. He developed a strong interest in spirit craftsmen. When he had nothing to do, he would look for Hu Quan and some Class 3 spirit craftsmen under him for advice. This was a good thing in Lin Yuan's opinion. As long as one wanted to learn, it was never too late to pick up a skill. Lin Yuan took out the source-type Titan centipede that he had obtained from Gao Feng and handed it to Zhang Xiaobai, Tan Ran, Xening and Lu Pinru. I've already obtained the source-type life-form Titan centipede. During this period of time, don't go to the underground space to help. Let Master Hong Shen help you nurture these 4 Titan Chi first. The willpower runes that the 4 of you have comprehended can be used together with the Titan Python's normal skill. When I meet the Barbarian Snake Club in the S tournament, I can use my strength to show them what a true barbarian snake is. When Zhang Xiaobai and the others heard that, their eyes lit up and they clenched their fists tightly. Only by taking revenge with his own hands could he feel at ease. Otherwise, the humiliation of the past would become a dead knot in his heart. After saying that, Lin Yuan looked at Lu Pinru. Lu Pinru, you've been contracting a lustrous weaver silkworm with the exact same skill and exclusive skill. Now that your spiritual energy has mutated and greatly enhanced, I'll find a way to get a few more lustrous weaver silkworms with the exact same skill and exclusive skill for you to contract. It could be said that Lu Pinru's contracted lustrous weaver silkworms had always been a major feature of her. It could be considered a model of qualitative change in phase. If Lu Pinru relied on this contract method to grow, even if nothing could be seen now, in the future she would definitely become a genius expert with the potential like Shirsu. Therefore, Lin Yuan felt that it was very necessary to invest in Lu Pinru. If it had been in the past when Lin Yuan did not have connections, he would have needed to continuously enhance the lustrous weaver silkworms to get Lu Pinru a lustrous weaver silkworm with the exact same skill and exclusive skill. After all, it was too difficult to buy a lustrous weaver silkworm with the exact same skill and exclusive skill as Lu Pinru's contracted lustrous weaver silkworm. Even Sequence 18 White Demon had searched for a long time and only happened to encounter one due to luck. However, if Lin Yuan wanted to get such a lustrous weaver silkworm for Lu Pinru, he no longer needed to rack his brains. The silver-haired old woman from the Brahma insect cage had his own phone number. Chapter 933. As an emperor-level powerhouse, the silver-haired old woman must have an important position in the Brahma insect cage, a top force. The silver-haired old woman had earnestly asked for his contact details, so she must have planned to contact him afterward. When the silver-haired old woman contacted him, he could tell her that he needed the lustrous weaver silkworm. The Brahma insect cage controlled the Radiance Federation's massive insect species Fey resources. It could be said that half of the insect species Feys on the market came from the Brahma insect cage. He could start from the inside of the Brahma insect cage and help Lu Pinru find a suitable lustrous weaver silkworm from the source. Upon hearing that, Lu Pinru nodded. If he could solve the problem of the lustrous weaver silkworm, he would be able to form a contract with an identical lustrous weaver silkworm. That way, his support effect in the team would be greatly enhanced, and he would be able to perform more reliably in the S tournament. In Lu Pinru's heart, the stronger she became, the more outstanding her performance was, and the more she could help Lin Yuan. Only then could it be considered the best repayment to Lin Yuan. Lu Pinru suddenly thought of her and Wenyu's plan and said to Lin Yuan, "Lin Yuan, I want to be a reserve member of the Dome Guild Club and set up my own clothing brand, Home of Tastes. We specialize in producing and designing clothing suitable for male spirit chi professionals." At this time, when you happened to be walking out of the kitchen with a bowl of shredded coconut chicken soup. Hearing Lu Pinru's words, Wenyu quickly put the coconut chicken soup on the table and said, "Lin Yuan, Pinru is also a weaver. Pinru's weaver rank is the same as mine. She's also at rank 3. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan looked at Lu Pinru with some surprise. The number of weavers in the Radiance Federation was much less than that of spirit craftsmen. Weavers produced spirit chi clothing, which was considered a fashion job. The money he earned far exceeded that of a class 3 spirit craftsman. After all, a spirit craftsman building a house or carving an object was far less attractive to spirit chi professionals than spirit chi clothing. Lin Yuan had deeply experienced the benefits of having a class 3 weaver by his side. In terms of the weaver rank, Wenyu and Lu Pinru had become 3-star weavers at such a young age. He could be considered a super genius among the lifestyle class spirit chi occupations, the weavers. However, he was a little curious about Lu Pinru and Wenyu's business direction. Why did they only produce and manufacture male spirit chi professionals' clothing? Logically speaking, female spirit chi professionals should have a higher demand for spirit chi clothing. For example, Lin Yuan didn't have much need for spirit chi clothing. It was fine as long as he had enough to wear. As for Endless Summer, every time she went to buy spirit chi clothing, it was as if she was sweeping up all the spirit chi clothing in the store. Just as Lin Yuan was having this question, Lu Pinru pushed up the glasses on her face and said very wisely, "That's right. Previously, when I carried the wardrobe out to train, every time I went to the mall, I felt that the clothes of male spirit chi professionals were too simple and restrictive. I plan to let the male spirit chi professionals dress more boldly and strive to let every male spirit chi professional visit the Home of Taste twice a year." As he listened to Lu Pinru's plan and bold words, Lin Yuan felt that he had many more small question marks. As a man, Lin Yuan did not feel the monotonous spirit chi clothing that he usually wore. He secretly guessed how they would make the male spirit chi professionals' attire bold. "I can't wear a dress, right? If I really wear a dress, I'm afraid the steel bars won't buy it. Of course Lin Yuan wouldn't buy it either. Although he didn't know how Wen Yu and Lu Pinru's plan would be implemented, he still had to support it. Listen, Star Web sales are pretty good. Those items mixed with completely jade-textured powder are in short supply on Star Web. When the time comes, you can look for Listen and let him show the Spirit Chi clothing you designed in the Star Web live streaming room. At the same time, you can also hire more weavers to make Spirit Chi clothing according to your designs. While Lin Yuan was speaking, Listen, Zhou Luo, Duan He and Purple Demon returned from outside. Duan He's first words were when he saw Lin Yuan. Young master, I heard that something happened to the Miao family at the Nix conference. I think the Miao and Zheng families shouldn't have time to target our Sky City. Duan He knew Lin Yuan's identity and knew that he must have participated in the Nix conference. Therefore, Duan He was a little curious about what the Miao family had done at the Nix conference to be chased out of Night Dawn Palace. When Lin Yuan heard Duan He's words, he first nodded and then shook his head. During this time, the Miao family definitely wouldn't have time to find trouble with Sky City. What had happened at the Nix conference and the Golden Lotus brocade in the Coiling Dragon Valley were equivalent to a sharp sword stuck in the Miao family's head. These two sharp swords were enough to shake the Miao family's foundation, and they would definitely find ways to find a solution. In the end, this method would always come back to him. However, when he thought about how Zheng Kaiyuan had the courage to sit on the Miao family's representative's seat at the Nix conference, one could imagine the extent to which Zheng Kaiyuan had become arrogant. Since Zheng Kaiyuan was so high, he would naturally become bolder. It was impossible for Zheng Kaiyuan, who had become bolder, not to make a move on his old rival, Sky City. Now that Endless Summer had become a creation breed, Lin Yuan also had the creation breed Slaughterer Butterfly as a trump card. It was time to get rid of the Zheng family permanently. It was also time for Sky City, which had always been hidden in the clouds, to show its majesty for the first time. Lu Jie placed the bowls and chopsticks on the table and said, "Let's eat. Everyone have a taste of my cooking." While speaking, Lu Jie thought of Zhong Zhe, who had been praised by Gu Lang. This time he had used all his skills to cook. After eating his meal, he would go to eat Zhong Zhe's meal. Then he would be able to determine the winner in cooking with Zhong Zhe. With that thought, Lu Jie snorted softly. When it comes to cooking, I, Lu Jie, will not lose. At that moment, everyone sitting around the table was eating Lu Jie's delicious food. Lin Yuan had always felt that Lu Jie's food was exceptionally delicious, but he did not know if it was because he was hungry. He always felt that Lu Jie's food was better than before. Lin Yuan looked at his companions sitting next to him eating and counted softly. 1, 2, 3, 13. There were a total of 13. Including himself, there were exactly 14. Although Lin Yuan had known Zhang Xiaobai and the others before and had become life and death friends in Millstone Town, however, they had not lived together. Now that Zhang Xiaobai and the others had integrated into the big family of Return from Faraway Mansion, it had unknowingly developed and grown stronger. Looking at his companions sitting around, Lin Yuan's heart softened. After the meal, Lin Yuan played Fey cards with everyone for a while, and the result was as Lin Yuan had expected. After 2 hours of playing Fey cards, except for Wen Yu, who still did not have a note on her face, everyone's faces were more or less stained with notes. In fact, in a strategic chess interactive game like Fey cards, one's talent for internal affairs could be seen by the number of notes on one's face. It was the first time that Zhang Xiaobai, Tan Ran, Xaning, and Lu Pinru played Fey cards with Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan blinked when he saw that Tan Ran only had 2 notes on her face. He did not expect Tan Ran to be a genius who was good at internal affairs. At that moment, Chimi's shy and patient voice sounded in Lin Yuan's mind. "Lin Yuan, the divine-shaped Bodhi fruit tastes so bitter." After Chimi ate it, the bitterness made its tongue numb. Chapter 934. Upon hearing Chimi's voice, Lin Yuan suddenly smacked his forehead and thought of something. Genius said that Chimi will be doing a Star Web live broadcast tonight. Suddenly Lu Jie's phone rang. Lu Jie took the phone, and a look of pleasant surprise and seriousness immediately appeared on his face. After listening to the voice on the other end of the phone for a while, Lu Jie finally opened his mouth. "All right, master. I'll be right there." After hanging up the phone, Lu Jie stood up and apologetically said to everyone, "I have something to do. What do you guys want to eat tomorrow? I'll buy the ingredients when I come back." When Lu Jie said "master" on the phone just now, most of the people present were slightly stunned. Apart from Lin Yuan, the mother of Bloodbath, Endless Summer, Wen Yu and a few others, there was no one else present. The others had never heard Lu Jie mention his master before. Everyone couldn't help but feel curious about Lu Jie's master. Whenever Lu Jie went out, he would ask everyone to order food to see if there was anything they wanted to eat. If there was something they didn't have at home, he would prepare the ingredients on the way back. At such a time, the mother of Bloodbath, who was a top foodie, would never stand on ceremony with Lu Jie. "Will you be back tomorrow morning?" When Lu Jie heard this, he seemed to have thought of something dangerous. His expression changed slightly, and a grim expression appeared on his face. However, in the blink of an eye, the stern expression on his face was concealed by Lu Jie. Lu Jie said after pondering for a while, "Looking at the time, I probably won't be able to make it back in the day, but I'll definitely be able to make it back in the afternoon no matter what the result is." The mother of Bloodbath looked at Lu Jie doubtfully for a moment before replying, "Why don't we eat seafood barbecue tonight?" As he spoke, the mother of Bloodbath felt that Lu Jie seemed to have something on his mind and was making a decision. It was like he had reached a fork in his life. However, the mother of Bloodbath knew Lu Jie's identity and who his master was. This matter concerned the chief guard of the spirit guards, so the mother of Bloodbath did not ask about it. However, a worried expression appeared on her face. At this moment, Lu Jie's expression had already returned to normal, and he nodded with a smile. "That's good. The weather isn't as cold as before. Tomorrow night, I'll prepare the ingredients and we'll have a seafood barbecue in the courtyard." Since Lu Jie had something to do and it was getting late, the 2-hour game officially ended. Lin Yuan followed Lu Jie to the door and asked, "Brother Lu, is there any danger in going to your master's place?" Lin Yuan had keenly noticed the grim look on Lu Jie's face. Lin Yuan knew that Lu Jie had always been a steady person, so even Lu Jie had a grim expression on his face. In that case, this matter was definitely not small. Upon seeing that Lin Yuan was asking him a question, Lu Jie answered without hiding anything. "When Master is inspecting the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift, he has also obtained an insect-type carcinoma Fey that is extremely important to me from the Rhine life form. We will head over tonight to let the Insect Queen control this insect-type carcinoma Fey. This carcinoma Fey can enhance any insect-type carcinoma Fey and form a link with any other insect-type carcinoma Fey. If I can let the Insect Queen control this insect species carcinoma Fey, my current strength will at least double." Upon hearing Lu Jie's words, Lin Yuan knew how important this insect species carcinoma Fey was to Lu Jie. At that moment, Lu Jie heard Lin Yuan speak again. However, this insect-type carcinoma Fey is extremely harmful to the soul. While the Insect Queen uses the spiritual toxin to control it, it will constantly be affected by this insect-type carcinoma Fey. In order to prevent the Insect Queen's soul from being injured and affecting its control over this insect-type carcinoma Fey, I have to let this insect-type carcinoma Fey attack my soul first. Upon hearing Lu Jie's words, Lin Yuan could not help but interrupt. The soul is extremely important. After all, this is a carcinoma Fey. Even if its grade is low, it can still be extremely harmful. If your soul can't withstand it, you have to give up halfway. Lu Jie revealed a difficult expression when he heard Lin Yuan's instructions. Only the Rhine Medical Center has one insect-type carcinoma Fey. Even the Land of Spirit Suppression has never taken it in. Once the Insect Queen's spiritual toxin control is interrupted, it will definitely cause the insect-type carcinoma Fey's death. I will also lose this rare opportunity to become stronger. Therefore, I'm afraid that I will have to suffer tonight." Upon hearing this, Lin Yuan suddenly thought of something and took out a small jar from the amber button-shaped Fey storage box. Then he took out a white porcelain bowl. He opened the jar and poured a fragrant amber liquid into a small bowl before handing it to Lu Jie. "This is the nectar made from the suzerain silver stamen gold luster cassia flower. It can cleanse the soul of impurities and has a powerful protective effect on the soul. Big brother Lu, you will indeed have to suffer a little. The suzerain silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar will probably be more painful than the insect-type carcinoma Fey's attack. However, this suffering will not be for nothing. Big brother Lu will definitely reap double the rewards." As Lin Yuan spoke, he could not help but recall the time when he drank the suzerain silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. The intense pain in his soul was still fresh in his memory. Even if Lin Yuan was beaten to death, he would not want to endure it a second time. However, Lu Jie wanted to use his soul to gamble on his transformation. Under such circumstances, the suzerain silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar would definitely be the best helper. Lu Jie took the white porcelain bowl that Lin Yuan handed over and nodded solemnly at him. Then he turned and left the return from faraway mansion. During the civil and martial duels, Wuxia had been very surprised. He did not expect Lin Yuan to improve so quickly and be so strong. On one hand, Wuxia was happy for Lin Yuan, but on the other hand he suppressed the self-satisfaction that had just risen in his heart. Wuxia knew that he was still far from being able to walk side by side with Lin Yuan. However, if the insect queen could successfully control the insect-type carcinoma Fei tonight, Wuxia was confident that he would be able to fight evenly with Zhong Zhe, whose sacred source life form had transformed into a growth stage, even without using his sacred source life form. After Wuxia left, Lin Yuan quickly walked back to the mansion. After thinking for a moment, he prepared to summon Chimey, which had eaten the divine Bodhi fruit, out of the spirit lock spatial zone. Chimey had transformed into a human form for the live broadcast. It could not possibly still sit on the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's branch. It was not that the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's branch could not withstand Chimey's human form. Lin Yuan did not want to display a heaven and earth fey like the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree on Star Web. It did not matter who he was, how powerful he was, or whether he could protect the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. However, Lin Yuan still understood the principle of not letting one's wealth leak. The first was even better. End of this chapter. Chapter 935. Moreover, this phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree was something that Lin Yuan had snatched from the tower cannon. Lin Yuan immediately waved his hand and summoned Chimey and Genius from the spirit lock spatial zone. Just as Lin Yuan summoned Chimey and Genius, he saw a beautiful figure carrying a white cat pouncing into his embrace. Lin Yuan, Chimey has finally transformed into a human form. Do you think Chimey looks good in its human form? At first, Lin Yuan was startled by the woman who suddenly pounced into his embrace. Just as he was about to reach out and push the woman away, he realized that the woman was Chimey. Lin Yuan then withdrew his hand that was about to reach out. Lin Yuan was currently being tightly hugged by Chimey, and he could only see a few wisps of indistinct blue in Chimey's long black hair. Suddenly Lin Yuan felt that Chimey's long hair was like a smear of blue night in the horizon, and the night sky was still filled with dazzling stars. The hair swayed gently, soft, elegant, and abnormally graceful. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard Genius's patient voice coming from between him and Chimey. Chimey, it's fine that you have been rubbing Genius after transforming. Are you trying to choke Genius to death now? After hearing Genius' low and muffled voice, Chimey recalled that it had hugged and touched Genius to its fullest when it had just transformed into a human form. Genius was now squeezed between it and Lin Yuan. Chimey hurriedly let go of Lin Yuan and stuck out its tongue, not forgetting to rub Genius. Genius, you are too comfortable to hug. It is so comfortable that Chimey has forgotten to hug you. But don't worry, Genius. Chimey will not do this next time. Genius reminded Chimey with a childish voice. Chimey, you will have to wait for a long time if you want to rub Genius again. But there is only one divine Bodhi fruit. At that moment, Lin Yuan finally saw Chimey's appearance clearly. After seeing Chimey's appearance, Lin Yuan's expression was slightly sluggish. He actually couldn't bear to blink for a long time. Lin Yuan felt that he wasn't someone who cared about appearances, but he couldn't bear to shift his gaze away from Chimey. This wasn't the first time Lin Yuan saw a Fey transforming into a human form. The mother of Bloodbath was cold and elegant, Endless Summer was luxurious, and the Purple Demon was demonic. It could be said that the three female Fays in the Return from Faraway Manor each had their own characteristics. Any one of them would be a one-in-a-million beauty. However, compared to Chimey, Lin Yuan felt that the mother of Bloodbath, Endless Summer, and Purple Demon were still lacking something. Finally, after careful observation, Lin Yuan found out what the reason was. Chimey's facial features were simply too exquisite. If the facial features of a normal person were to be drawn into a portrait, it would require hundreds of meticulous carvings of lines. In that case, the number of lines needed to draw a portrait of Chimey's facial features would be doubled. At the same time, Chimey's exquisite big eyes were very lively, as though they contained a pool of limpid autumn water. Qiushui's clear eyes were still flashing with a mischievous and clear expression. Her long eyelashes were like an affectionate little fan, fluttering like a young girl curiously pouncing on a firefly in the blink of an eye. At the same time, her eyes, which were filled with clear ripples, hid some of the mysteriousness of the so-called lover from the waterside. Lin Yuan could imagine how vivid Chimey would be when it sang and its eyes were covered with emotions. After Chimey transformed into its human form, feathers automatically formed spirit chi clothing on its body. It was like an azure blue dress embroidered with cloud patterns, stars and suns. The shoulders were covered with thin silk, and the thin silk connected to the waist to form a skirt that was suffused with a light gold color. It had an indescribable immortal aura. The gold that seemed illusory against the sun's patterns was like the glazed flame that Chimey had used its radiant body to absorb sunlight energy and ignite. Hibiscus sunrise, hidden stars cloud pattern. Lin Yuan could not help but sigh at Chimey's appearance and figure. Perfect. Lin Yuan was already starting to worry about Chimey's fans and talent fans. Lin Yuan was really afraid that these voice fans and talent fans would accidentally become face fans after seeing Chimey's appearance. In fact, it was not just Lin Yuan. Even the people who were still in the mansion were stunned by Chimey's appearance. Hu Quan, who usually read his book, looked at Chimey and could not help but mutter. Female lead. A proper female lead. The conversation between Chimey and Lin Yuan had already revealed its identity. Apart from Lin Yuan, Chu Ci, who was the most familiar with Chimey, walked forward. After carefully looking at Chimey's face a few times, Chu Ci said in admiration, "Chimey, you're so good looking." Upon hearing that, Chimey's big eyes immediately curved slightly. Its small fan-like eyelashes covered half of its eyes, and the curve of its eyes expressed the joy in its heart. The moment Chimey's eyes curved up, everyone could not help but be influenced by it, and the corners of their mouths curled up. The instant Chimey's eyes curled up, everyone couldn't help but be influenced by Chimey, and the corners of their mouths curled up in delight. It could be said that Chimey's expression could already affect people's hearts unknowingly. Upon seeing this scene, Lin Yuan suddenly thought in his heart. As the most beautiful Fey, purple firmament enhanced the butterfly species Fey's bloodline on the basis of the purple cloud divine butterfly and evolved into the purple cloud divine butterfly. Lin Yuan doesn't dare to imagine how good-looking purple firmament would be in human form. Chu Ci, who was looking at Chimey, asked Lin Yuan curiously. Lin Yuan, how can Chimey transform into human form? Could it be that Chimey has reached myth 2? Lin Yuan looked at Chu Ci's puzzled expression and said, that's right. Chimey ate the divine Bodhi fruit, which can allow Fays to transform into human form for a period of time. However, once the time limit is up, the effects of the divine form Bodhi fruit will lose its effect, and Chimey will return to normal. After speaking to Chu Ci, Lin Yuan turned to look at the smug Chimey. Inin, choose any scene in the manner and log into Star Web. If you continue to show off for a little longer, your transformation time is almost up. Upon hearing that, Chimey quickly replied. Lin Yuan, in your room. Inin is most at ease there. But Yuan, do you think Chimey needs a change of clothes? Hearing that Chimey wanted to change, Endless Summer's eyes lit up. Inin, big sister Xia will help you style it. Sister Xia is very fast in styling. I guarantee you'll be satisfied in 20 minutes. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan couldn't help but break out in a waterfall of sweat. Inin, your current appearance is already very beautiful. Lin Yuan was really afraid that Endless Summer would make Chimey into a little hipster. She wore a light yellow dress, fluffy hair and colorful makeup. Even if Chimey had good looks, its taste would probably be famous for being bad on Star Web. Upon hearing Lin Yuan say that it was the most beautiful, Chimey said to Endless Summer, Big Sister Xia, Lin Yuan said that I'm beautiful now. Big Sister Xia, Lin Yuan said that I am beautiful now, so I don't need to do any styling. Second update. There should be another update in a while. Sorry, I've been on a business trip and have been busy all day. Now, I'm holding my laptop and staying up all night writing in the hotel. Strive not to owe more updates. It's a new month. Please support me with monthly votes. Love you guys. End of this chapter. Chapter 936. Endless Summer felt a little regretful. It could have been prettier, okay? Moreover, Endless Summer felt that with Chimey's exquisite facial features, it would definitely look better after shaving its head. Chimey carried Genius to Lin Yuan's bedroom and prepared to log into Star Web. But before logging into the new web, Chimey felt its heart beating extremely fast. Chimey, which had been blocking the gifts during the Star Web live streaming, was now preparing to show its face for the first time. Furthermore, it was in its human form, so it was impossible not to be nervous. But in the end, Chimey bravely logged in. Lin Yuan saw that Chimey had returned to its room to live stream, so he didn't disturb it. Instead, he went to the guest room and logged into Star Web with his original identity. Inside the Radiance Federation's Star Web building, a woman was lying on the table while holding a cup of water. The woman's palm was tightly gripping the cup, causing it to let out a faint creak sound. It was obvious how much strength this woman was using. The woman had an angry and anxious expression. At that moment, a short-haired middle-aged woman walked to the woman lying on the table and said, "Ning Ning, the chief editor wants to see you." The short-haired middle-aged woman saw Tian Ningning's expression and couldn't help but sigh. As she spoke, the short-haired middle-aged woman saw the expression on Tian Ningning's face and couldn't help but sigh. The short-haired middle-aged woman looked at Tian Ningning with eyes full of sympathy. When the short-haired middle-aged woman found out that Tian Ningning had quietly become Black's exclusive reporter, she felt that Tian Ningning was a little silly. Before Tian Ningning went to fight for Black, a Radiance 100 sequence member who had just retired had changed his exclusive reporter. Before Tian Ningning went to fight for Black, a Radiance 100 sequence member who had just retired had changed his exclusive reporter. Furthermore, this former Radiance 100 sequence member who had changed his exclusive reporter had specially found Tian Ningning and wanted to invite her to be his exclusive reporter. However, Tian Ningning had rejected him. At that time, the short-haired middle-aged woman couldn't understand Tian Ningning's operation. She didn't expect that the heroic youth in Millstone Town Black was actually a stock with great potential. After Tian Ningning had become Black's exclusive reporter, everything Black did would cause a sensation on Star Web. This caused Tian Ningning to gradually become famous among the many Star Web reporters. Back then she had attended the press conference with Long Tao, Fang Duo, Shi Su, Zhao Xiaochun, and the other 4 Radiance 100 sequence members' exclusive reporters. This had pushed Tian Ningning to the peak of the pursuit of Star Web's exclusive reporters. This allowed Tian Ningning to have the same status as the Radiance 100 sequence's exclusive reporter. Based on the strength that Black had displayed on the Celestial Stairway, it was basically a done deal for him to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence selection this year and become a Radiance 100 sequence member. But now, it seemed that Tian Ningning's job as Black's exclusive reporter wasn't easy. Ever since Tian Ningning became Black's exclusive reporter, she had never done an interview with Black, which made the chief editor very dissatisfied with her. He did not know what bad things Black had done for so many veteran factions and top factions disciples, who usually kept a low profile to be able to escape. Black had always been compared to the All-Star competition's genius youth, Lin Yuan, on Star Web. This wasn't a big deal. After all, there were posts on the Star Web that compared the ordinary green shell crab with the myth breed rainstone cherry crab. After a strange analysis, it made people feel that the green shell crab, which wasn't even considered a fae, seemed to be more outstanding than the myth breed rainstone cherry crab. There had always been a lot of idiots on Star Web, and everyone had the right to post whatever they wanted on Star Web. No one would restrict them. However, the debate between Lin Yuan and Black had suddenly changed this morning. At first, only a few young direct descendants of the veteran factions and top factions publicly said that Black couldn't even compare to half of Lin Yuan's finger. As soon as this matter appeared, it immediately became a trending topic on Star Web. Any one of these direct descendants of the veteran factions and top factions upheld the glory and majesty of the veteran factions and top factions. These top factions and veteran factions disciples always had their own fixed small circles on Star Web and were usually very low-key. Occasionally, some hot-tempered young masters or young ladies from the veteran factions and top factions would publicly diss someone on Star Web. Once such a thing happened, regardless of whether the matter was finally settled, it would be treated as a big melon by many netizens on Star Web. However, it was very rare for several young masters and young ladies from the veteran factions to collectively diss a single person. It could even be said that there hadn't been a similar incident on Star Web in the past 5 years. When this storm had just started, many netizens had seriously compared Black's strength on the Celestial Stairway with Meng Su's strength, which had been KO'd by Lin Yuan. They had analyzed the gap between Black and Lin Yuan. Unexpectedly, this matter that had just become a trending topic on Star Web had rapidly spread. Dozens of young people from the veteran factions and top factions publicly dissed Black on Star Web. They had joined the battle on Lin Yuan's side. This caused all the netizens on Star Web to fall into a state of confusion. They couldn't understand what was going on. How did Black manage to provoke so many immortals who were usually elusive and elusive? Could it be that these immortal figures were publicly dissing Black because Lin Yuan was stronger than Black? This left everyone at a loss for a moment. As Black's exclusive reporter, Tian Ningning had to pay close attention and contact Black immediately after this happened. She had to find out what had happened and then think of a way to deal with this matter. However, after working hard for a day, Tian Ningning realized that she couldn't contact Black no matter what. In fact, Tian Ningning had not been able to contact Black for a day or two. Tian Ningning checked her previous chat record with Black and realized that it had been half a month ago. At that time, Black had fought in 2 celestial stairway duels, and she had written down the battle record and sent it to Black. Black had only replied with 2 words. "Thank you for your hard work." When she had seen Black's reply, Tian Ningning had felt very warm in her heart. Now that such a huge incident had occurred, Tian Ningning, as Black's exclusive reporter, couldn't contact the person she was responsible for. No matter how outstanding Tian Ningning's business ability was, she didn't know what kind of crisis public relations was suitable for her. After all, she didn't know the cause of this storm. Tian Ningning couldn't contact Lin Yuan now. She was a little anxious and had some complaints. However, she had been Black's exclusive reporter for nearly half a year and had a certain understanding of Black. Yesterday's 3rd update. Seeking monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 937. She now knew what kind of temper and character Black had. Back then, be it in Millstone Town or the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, Black had been very indifferent about his achievements. He had never tried to hype himself up or publish a highly complimentary report. This meant that Black had never changed and was still maintaining his original pace and quality. As Black's exclusive reporter, Tian Ningning could still see the dazzling radiance from Black's indifference and enthusiasm when she had become Black's exclusive star web reporter. Furthermore, this radiance was constantly brightening as the youth grew. Tian Ningning frowned slightly when she saw the sympathy in the middle-aged woman's eyes. If Black finds out about this, he will definitely take the initiative to contact me. Big Sis Wang, I will go look for the chief editor first. After speaking, Tian Ningning headed for the chief editor's office. When she arrived at the chief editor's office, she saw the chief editor, Kong Qi, standing at the door. Chief editor Kong Qi immediately said, "Tian Ningning, I've been waiting for you. Tian Ningning, I've been waiting for you. Can you contact Black now?" Tian Ningning shook her head and said, "Chief editor, I can't contact Black now. But I plan to use my connections to ask why so many top factions and the younger generation of the veteran factions are targeting Black. However, I plan to use my connections to ask why the younger generation of so many peak powers and veteran factions are targeting Black. As Black's exclusive reporter, it is your dereliction of duty if you can't even contact Black at such a time. With so many veteran factions and top factions younger generation pressuring Black on Star Web, it is no longer a small matter that can be ignored. With so many veteran factions and top factions younger generation pressuring Black on Star Web, it is no longer a small matter that can be ignored. Immediately draft a report that can calm this matter down and post it on the Star Web. Do some temporary public relations work. Then, when you can contact Black, conduct a proper interview with him about this matter. During the interview, let Black talk about what exactly is going on." While speaking, Star Web chief editor Kong Qi couldn't help but ponder in her heart. That youth, Lin Yuan, who had defeated Meng Su with just a single move during the All-Star match, probably wasn't just simply powerful. There must be some kind of connection behind him. Today's matter could be big or small. In a small way, it was the daily debate on the strength of 2 prodigies on Star Web. But in a big way, it was the younger generation of the veteran factions and top factions uniting to support Lin Yuan. Since they had chosen to publicly support Lin Yuan, if there was no conclusion to this matter, how could those top factions and the younger generation of the veteran factions let it go? Moreover, Star Web chief editor Kong Qi had just discovered that many of the rising factions' younger generation had joined the crusade against Black. It seemed that all of these disciples from factions wanted to come up and say a few words for Lin Yuan by attacking Black. This situation had even begun to evolve into a trend. Of Lin Yuan. Black that of Lin Yuan. Releasing a statement at a time like this can stop this matter. It seems that only by using my identity as Black to publicly say that I'm inferior to Lin Yuan can this matter be quelled. Of Web Kong Qi was about to speak when Tian Ningning continued to refute. As Black Star Web exclusive reporter, from the moment I reached an agreement with Black, I will never publish any report using Black's identity and tone without him knowing. Moreover, this report will have a negative impact on Black. Editor-in-Chief, there is no such thing as an ox that cannot drink water. Also, I don't think Black is inferior to Lin Yuan in any way. Lin Yuan is powerful, but isn't Black outstanding? How can Black's spine be suppressed by the Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift and the Millstone Town? Black has fought side by side with Long Tao, Shi Su, Fang Duo, and Zhao Xiaochun. Long Tao is from the Coiled Dragon Valley, a top faction. I want to ask Long Tao's exclusive reporter about the specifics of this matter. I want to see if he can contact Long Tao himself. Kang Chi was stunned by Tian Ningning's indignant words. In Kang Chi's impression, Tian Ningning had always spoken mildly. Although she had her own stubborn insistence, she had never spoken aloud with her colleagues. Now Tian Ningning's eyes were red, and her words were almost roaring. This allowed Kang Chi to see Tian Ningning's determination and heart. Kang Chi knew that before contacting Black, Tian Ningning would never write a report to calm the storm. Fortunately, Tian Ningning gave him a solution. He wanted to contact Long Tao's exclusive reporter to understand the ins and outs of this storm. Kang Chi didn't force Tian Ningning, so she just said one sentence to her. My suggestion just now was also for Black's benefit. The storm of this matter is getting bigger and bigger. Once the storm reaches a certain point, even if Black appears for an interview, he might not be able to solve it perfectly. So you have to be mentally prepared. For Kang Chi to be able to become the chief editor of Star Web, she naturally had abilities that others couldn't compare to. Kang Chi had always been very far-sighted. If this matter could be resolved when it first happened, it would at most be treated as an ordinary piece of news. Some people even felt that Black admitted that he was inferior to Lin Yuan because he did not want more people to compare him with Lin Yuan. However, when this matter expanded to a certain extent, Black would then admit that he was inferior to Lin Yuan. It was equivalent to putting a weak label on Black in everyone's hearts. By then, it would be a topic that would follow Black forever. As long as someone mentioned Black, they would associate it with this matter. No matter what Black did in the future that was worthy of pride or respect. When he was mentioned, he would be labeled as weak and inferior to Lin Yuan. This was not what Kang Chi wanted to see. Kang Chi liked a young hero like Black from the bottom of her heart. Therefore, Kang Chi also wanted to see if she could help Black and Tian Ningning. If this matter really can't be resolved, I will report it to Star Web Tower. Let's see if Star Web Tower can come forward and facilitate a 1v1 duel between Black and Lin Yuan. Tian Ningning's eyes lit up when she heard Kang Chi's words. Thank you, Chief Editor. Kang Chi rolled her eyes at Tian Ningning and said, Don't be too optimistic about this matter. Don't be too optimistic about this matter. The Star Tower might not necessarily approve my proposal. Even if Star Web Tower approves of my proposal, they might not be able to invite Black or Lin Yuan himself. However, if this duel can really be facilitated as long as Black or Lin Yuan perform beautifully in the duel and show all of their strength. No matter which side loses, they won't be affected too much by public opinion. The first one was better. The remaining two might come later. Button was on a business trip, so he should understand. He was frantically typing. End of this chapter. Chapter 938. Speaking up to this point, Kang Chi saw that Tian Ningning was listening to her with a serious face, and she was furious. Why aren't you contacting Long Tao's Star Web reporter? Why are you standing here like a silly pillar? Hurry up and go. Tian Ningning bowed deeply to Kang Chi and turned to return to her office to log on to Star Web. To contact Long Tao's exclusive reporter. Tian Ningning was not the only one who was troubled. As the owner of Black's official fan group, Lu Lang was also in a deep dilemma. Lin Yuan had just saved his life in Millstone Town, but as soon as he logged on to Star Web, he found that someone was looking for trouble with his idol, Black. The cause of this trouble was tied to Lin Yuan. This made Lu Lang feel a little helpless for a moment. Although he was Patriarch An's man, Lu Lang felt that it was a little inappropriate to speak ill of his savior. However, as he looked at the rolling messages in the group, Lu Lang slapped his thigh. If Black had not saved his life back then, Lin Yuan would not have had the chance to save him even if he wanted to. Lu Lang had long regarded that silver-masked youth as his belief and integrated him into his life. He had become a part of his life. Now that so many people were dissing Lin Yuan on Star Web, Lu Lang felt that he could not stand it anymore. The younger generation from the top factions and veteran factions all had their identity marks on their Star Web accounts. However, Lu Lang did not care so much. If you dare to say that Black isn't good, then you can't. Since you dare to say that Black isn't good, then don't blame me for hunting your horses. Lu Lang solemnly said word by word in the group. The horse hunter teams in the group are free to choose the target to attack. The teams are free to launch attacks as a unit. Tonight, the teams will compete to see which team can hunt the most horses. At that moment, this storm was constantly brewing on Star Web, but Lin Yuan was unaware of it. He did not know that after the Nix assembly ended, the younger generation of the veteran factions and the top factions were trying to curry favor with him. He had actually attacked the person who had always been compared to his original identity on Star Web. Coincidentally, Black was Lin Yuan's other identity. It could be said that Lin Yuan was sitting at home, and the pot had fallen from the sky. There were two groups of people helping him scold himself. No matter which side won, Lin Yuan would not be able to escape the double scolding. No normal person would believe such a thing. After logging on Star Web, he first went to the purchase with no loss store to check the gains of blind trading during this time. He found that each flower brocade pearl could be exchanged for about 2 tons of aurora pollen. But now, each flower brocade pearl could only be exchanged for about 1 ton of aurora pollen. For a consumable fey like the flower brocade pearls that had a growth cycle, no matter how many were sold in one go, it would not be enough to saturate the market. Therefore, the flower brocade pearls were exchanged for less aurora pollen, not because the flower brocade pearls were no longer precious. It was because the price of the aurora pollen was skyrocketing. Things were different now. Lin Yuan had reached an agreement with Sun Ningxiang during the Nix assembly. It was because of this cooperation that he found out that as early as a month ago, the Dew Immortal Garden had not only stopped providing aurora pollen in the market, but it had also stopped providing aurora pollen. Instead, he bought all the aurora pollen available on the market. Then he used the market restriction method to cleverly maintain the aurora pollen's price. Even so, the aurora pollen's price was still skyrocketing. This meant that the Dew Immortal Garden was trying its best to maintain the aurora pollen's price was about to collapse. Sun Ningxiang's actions were equivalent to accelerating Lin Yuan's plan for the Blissful Sea clan. At this time, it should be very difficult for the aurora pollen on the market to be purchased in bulk. Even if there was, it would be some bulk goods, and most of them were in the hands of chambers of commerce with foresight in the market. However, the chambers of commerce often had to bear great risks when hoarding periodic and renewable spiritual ingredients like the aurora pollen. The chambers of commerce, which needed cash flow to maintain stability, hated risks the most. Therefore, no matter how far-sighted these chambers of commerce were, they did not dare to willfully and wantonly hoard aurora pollen. He looked at the remaining 1,300 flower brocade pearls in his hands. Lin Yuan divided them into 67 groups of 20 to carry out the blind trade. Lin Yuan wanted to blow up the aurora pollen in the hands of those chambers of commerce in one go. Moreover, 67 groups of blind trading could add at least 40 new members to the Purchase with No Loss Store Star Web fan club. The addition of new blood was of great help to the establishment of the Purchase with No Loss Stores fan club. At the same time, trading in groups of 20 flower brocade pearls could also ensure the quality of the network. Could be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. After doing this, Lin Yuan planned to log out of Star Web and inform Sun Ningxiang to stop all the supply of aurora pollen on the market. He did not even need to maintain the remaining appearance. During this time, Lin Yuan and the Blissful Sea clan had been trading angelfish of bliss. With Lin Yuan's rapid completion of the order, there were now nearly 500 platinum angelfish of bliss swimming in the hidden WRM lake. However, Lin Yuan also found that the Blissful Sea clan was starting to become more and more excessive in their transactions. Originally, the Blissful Sea clan only destroyed the organs of the angelfish of bliss so that they could not reproduce. However, in the subsequent transactions, the Blissful Sea clan actually sent Lin Yuan plenty of angelfish of bliss that had just given birth and were forcefully nurtured to platinum by the creation masters. Reproduction was always the most laborious and dangerous thing in the inheritance of life. These female fish that had just given birth were already weak, and being forcefully nurtured to adulthood while their bodies were weak was the same as overdrafting the female fish's vitality. If Lin Yuan had not made certain arrangements for the angelfish of bliss's health in the hidden WRM lake and the 3 Mountain River Eternal Life Carp's exclusive skills, the lifeform income in the mansion, the female angelfish of bliss would probably die prematurely. These female angelfish of bliss that had been forcefully nurtured by the Blissful Sea clan would probably die prematurely in Lin Yuan's hands. It could be said that the Sea of Bliss was shameless to the extreme when it came to trading. If Lin Yuan didn't have Morbius ability, true data, he wouldn't have been able to survive. If Lin Yuan did not have Morbius true data, the Blissful Sea clan might really be in the valley and not be able to use their eyes to discover the tricks on the angelfish of bliss. Coupled with the continuous transactions with Lin Yuan, the Blissful Sea clan already had a sufficient number of bronze/epic female angelfish of bliss in the incubation period. Yesterday's second update. End of this chapter. Chapter 939. This caused the Sea of Bliss to gradually lose the passion and desire to cooperate. When Wenyu had inquired about the Sea of Bliss, she had found out that the Sea of Bliss's fishery on the deep-sea island had started to have pregnant angelfish fishes that had given birth to young fishes. This was the time when the Sea of Bliss lacked aurora pollen the most. This was the best time to strike at the Sea of Bliss. Lin Yuan felt that as long as the Sea of Bliss were not stupid, they should have vaguely discovered the price of Aurora pollen in the market. If he did not make a move now, the Sea of Bliss would probably start to hoard Aurora pollen wantonly. While pondering, Lin Yuan suddenly recalled that it had been a long time since he had used the Purchase with No Loss store to issue a trade message. The last time he had issued a trade message in the Purchase with No Loss store's fan club was when he had just met Zhou Luo and formed the white-clothed followers. Ever since Lin Yuan had discovered that genius had the ability of a creation master, he had been thinking of quickly raising genius grade. Even if he could not raise genius grade in a short time, he had to raise it to the limit that a B-rank spirit chi professional could bear. It was at Diamond X. That way, genius's creation master ability could be maximized. Lin Yuan was also planning to buy a batch of 100 questions beasts for genius to teach. He wanted to see if those 100 questions beasts had the potential to become creation masters under genius nurturing. Hence, the upgrade of genius's rank was a must for him. Morbius was now at Silver X/Fantasy I, and the effect of the Spirit Chi crystals was 10 times stronger than before. Even so, the Spirit Chi crystals still could not meet Lin Yuan's needs. The best way for Lin Yuan to quickly raise genius grade was to plunder Myth Breed Fae's world grace. However, encountering a Myth Breed Fae that was about to undergo the world cleansing in the wild was undoubtedly like looking for a needle in a haystack. Lin Yuan did not have the time to go out into the wild and be a blind cat. It was unrealistic to be a blind cat, but Lin Yuan could turn himself into a tree. He could wait for the pig to come and knock itself to death in front of the tree. It was not easy for a Myth Breed Fae to undergo the world cleansing. When the Zheng family's third lineage's Jiao Hansong's Fae underwent the world cleansing, he would need the help of an Emperor-class expert like Duan He. However, not every Fae that was about to undergo the world cleansing would have the face to seek help from others. This was especially true for those Faes that were about to evolve from Suzerain/Fantasy V to Suzerain/Myth I and were facing the world cleansing for the first time. Experts without Myth Breed Faes would find it hard to find experts with Myth Breed Faes for help unless they had a powerful background. He felt that he could and had the ability to help these experts' Faes survive the world cleansing. Moreover, even if the pure land of ultimate bliss absorbed the grace of the world, it wouldn't take away all the grace of the world. According to his previous experience of absorbing the cold snow pine's grace of heaven and earth, the Pure Land of Bliss could only absorb about 10% of the grace of heaven and earth. Using 10% of the world grace in exchange for a chance to break through to Myth Breed safely was a profit for those experts and Faes who did not have the confidence to safely pass the world cleansing. Thus, he returned to the Purchase with No Loss store and posted a long-awaited trade message. Purchase with No Loss small store. Walk around and take a look inside. Our store is now launching a special service. Anyone who has a Myth Breed Fae that needs to undergo the world cleansing but is not confident can come to the store to reserve a spot. Our store is responsible for helping your Fae safely undergo the world cleansing. Since our store has a Fae that needs to be nurtured quickly, every time we help a Myth Breed Fae undergo the world cleansing, we will need to extract 10% of the world grace, 30 source-type items, and a condition that may need to be fulfilled at any time. This condition will not violate morality and the bottom line of being a human. Of course, after completing this condition, we will also provide you with 5 Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearls of any attribute. After posting this trade message, Lin Yuan nodded with satisfaction. At the same time, Lin Yuan felt that this trade message was too cheap. For those experts and Faes who did not have the strength to undergo the world cleansing, 10% of the world grace was not a condition that was difficult to give up. Any Heaven and Earth Fae and 30 source-type items could be exchanged for about 330 million Radiance dollars. It was not difficult for experts of that level to obtain 30 source-type items. Such a harvest could be obtained after exploring 30 Class 1-dimensional rifts or 15 Class 2-dimensional rifts. Moreover, it was still the end of the active phase of the dimensional rifts. As long as those experts were diligent enough, it should not be difficult to obtain 70 or 80 source-type items during the active phase of the dimensional rifts that occurred once every 10 years. In fact, apart from the 10% of the world grace, what Lin Yuan valued the most was the condition that needed to be fulfilled at any time. This condition meant that after Lin Yuan helped these experts and Faes, he would still have a link to keep in touch with them. In fact, he could even use this condition to mobilize the power of those experts and Faes at critical moments. This was also tantamount to Lin Yuan grasping more Emperor-class combat power. Even if these Emperor-class combat power were only one-time use. Moreover, Lin Yuan believed that the Emperor-class experts who had worked under him would never want to take the initiative to leave. Lin Yuan had great confidence in the resources in his hands. Generally speaking, king-class experts were very averse to making conditions for others. Although this condition would not violate morality and the bottom line of being a human, it was extremely uncertain. If the conditions were too harsh, they might even be accompanied by danger. Therefore, Lin Yuan thought of a good idea. After he made the conditions, the other party could get any 5 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls as a reward. To those Emperor-class experts, this was equivalent to doing a favor in exchange for 5 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. Most Emperor-class experts would not refuse such a deal as long as they had the time. Lin Yuan's approach had 2 considerations. On the one hand, he wanted these experts and fays who owed him conditions to look forward to his conditions day and night so that they could get 5 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls of any attribute. On the other hand, it was also to advertise his large-scale blind trade. He had to remind himself that the purchase with no lost star web store had heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. Every night, he would auction 1 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearl of any attribute in the fan group. The third time. After staying up all night, he finally finished writing. Good night, go to sleep. End of this chapter. Chapter 941. Lin Yuan was very happy to see that someone had sent him a private message so quickly. This meant that there was a large market for his message. Indeed, there were many experts whose fays wanted to survive the world cleansing but were not confident. This message was especially important to Lin Yuan. The condition to obtain an Emperor-class expert mentioned in the message was not considered timely help to Lin Yuan. At most, it was just icing on the cake. Lin Yuan now had the combat power of 2 creation breeds. Endless Summer was in charge of supporting healing, while the Slaughter Sky Butterfly was in charge of attacking. In addition, Lin Yuan's Path Protector, the Mother of Bloodbath, was also a potential stock. Duan He's contracted Purple Demon was also in existence that could fight above its rank. The Purple Demon needed to devour the flesh of a Fae of a higher grade than itself to evolve, so it was a little difficult for now. But recently, the Blood Brew grapes growing on the Blood Brew grapevine had matured in large quantities. With these Blood Brew grapes providing the Mother of Bloodbath with blood energy, it would not take long for it to reach Myth 3. With the close cooperation with Ascending Dragon City Lord Long Xiao, the Indigo Azure Guard's captain, Coiling Dragon Valley, Li Yun Bird Niche, and Du Immortal Garden, Lin Yuan's hoard of Law Origin crystals was increasing. The news of Coiling Dragon Valley and Li Yun Bird Niche exchanging flower brocade pearls from him had also begun to spread among the veteran factions and top factions. Jin Se was also desperately nurturing the Golden Lotus brocade pearls in the Spirit Lock spatial zone, where the spirit chi density had increased by 10 times. With the mass production of the Golden Lotus brocade pearls, Lin Yuan would not lack Law Origin crystals for a long time. At present, Lin Yuan could already say without bragging that he could guarantee the absolute loyalty of Myth Breed Phase. He could already plan to nurture Creation Breed Phase. Therefore, it was difficult for Lin Yuan to use those Emperor-class experts who exchanged information with him. The conditions of these Emperor-class powerhouses were basically equivalent to an invisible foundation, enriching the Sky Castle. They became the bricks and tiles under the Sky City, and lifted the Sky City high into the clouds. In the message, Lin Yuan craved the world grace after the world cleansing the most. Although Morbius' exclusive skill, Pure Land of Bliss, could only absorb 10% of the world grace, it could also produce a large number of Spirit Chi crystals. Spirit Chi crystals could be used to increase the grade of his contracted phase. The increase in phase grade was equivalent to increasing Black strength as a combat class Spirit Chi professional. After forming a contract with the Sacred Source life form, the Sacred Sword-wielding Queen, the Queen's dress would engrave rules and give feedback to the contractor. Lin Yuan realized that he had been too eager to enhance his strength during this period and had neglected to nurture his phase. Lin Yuan could not help but reflect. In this world where Spirit Chi professionals relied on phase to fight, increasing the phase strength was of utmost importance. Lin Yuan felt that he had really slacked off. If he could take advantage of this blind trade to help a few more Myth Breed phase undergo the world cleansing, then all of his phase would have a qualitative leap in strength. In the future, Lin Yuan would also have a plan to look for rare spiritual ingredients to improve his phase quality. However, it was not a good time for him to reply. He had now put 65 sets of Golden Lotus brocade beads on the shelves and was ready to collect the Aurora pollen hoarded in the Chamber of Commerce. The market had always been responsive, and the purchase with no loss stores blind trade had already made a name for itself on Star Web. Every day, there would be countless people waiting to see the news of the blind trade that he would announce. Presumably, these people were now using various means and channels to buy the aurora pollen that was about to collapse on the market. However, Sun Ningxiang did not know that he was going to collect the blissful sea race's evolution. Thus, in order to barely maintain the stability of the aurora pollen's price in the market, Sun Ningxiang needed to sell the aurora pollen that she had been hoarding. This was not what Lin Yuan wanted to see. If Sun Ningxiang did this, it would be equivalent to helping Lin Yuan instead of helping him. It would make Lin Yuan's blind trade of over 1,300 golden lotus brocade beads meaningless. Therefore, he did not immediately reply to the expert who had received the message of his exchange. Instead, he left the star web and called Sun Ningxiang. The phone rang for half a minute before Sun Ningxiang picked up the phone with a somewhat hoarse voice. As soon as Lin Yuan picked up the phone, he heard Sun Ningxiang say, "Lin Yuan, you suddenly left the Dark Knight Assembly and didn't even personally collect the prize for the civil and martial duels. Could it be that something serious has happened? Long Tao, Li Xian and Gao Feng have all inquired about it. They don't know what happened to you." Upon hearing Sun Ningxiang's worry about him, Lin Yuan replied with a chuckle, "I did have some urgent matters at that time. There was indeed something urgent at the time, so I went to help my friend." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Sun Ningxiang was stunned. Sun Ningxiang remembered that the Moon Empress Chief Steward, Mystic Moon Envoy, had also left with Lin Yuan. Sun Ningxiang had always thought that something big had happened to Lin Yuan. She did not expect that Lin Yuan had given up the glory on the stage just to help a friend. No matter what Lin Yuan had helped, Lin Yuan's attitude toward his friend made Sun Ningxiang feel that Lin Yuan's whole body was filled with warmth. Whoever could become Lin Yuan's friend was really lucky. At that thought, Sun Ningxiang, who looked exhausted on the other end of the phone, smiled brightly. Speaking of friends, wasn't she also Lin Yuan's friend? She recalled the first time she had met Lin Yuan in Sky City's Star Web private territory. At first, she and Lin Yuan had only been in a cooperative relationship. It was not until Miao Zhuo had accidentally implicated Lin Yuan when he had made things difficult for her at the Nix conference that she had truly met Lin Yuan in reality. She had vaguely guessed Lin Yuan's identity. Later, she had taken the initiative to bravely step forward and join that small group with Lin Yuan as the leader. As the current pillar of the Du Immortal Garden, Sun Ningxiang had taken on all the responsibilities as a woman. This responsibility made Sun Ningxiang naturally take the initiative to be friendly after learning about Lin Yuan's identity. However, Sun Ningxiang found that her initiative to be friendly in exchange for Lin Yuan's frank friendship. This made Sun Ningxiang feel that she was the greatest luck in this life. Lin Yuan had even brought her Long Tao and Li Xian together. He had allowed the Du Immortal Garden, the Coiling Dragon Valley and the Dawn Cloudbird Cage to reach a cooperation, opening up a way for the Du Immortal Garden to save its declining situation. After leaving the Nix conference, Sun Ningxiang had been busy with all kinds of things for the Du Immortal Garden for almost the whole day. She did not even have time to drink a few mouthfuls of water. Sun Ningxiang recalled that Apricot Gua had just reported to her that the aurora pollen craze had erupted in the market again, so she asked Lin Yuan. The second one was even better. End of this chapter. Chapter 942. Lin Yuan, it's not easy to suppress the aurora pollen's price now. When I first suppressed the aurora pollen's price, the market demanded 10 tons. I only needed to replenish 1 ton of aurora pollen in the market. But during this time the market demanded 10 tons of aurora pollen, and I already need to replenish 9 tons of it. At this point, Sun Ningxiang didn't continue to speak. Lin Yuan naturally had his own reasons for wanting to collect the aurora pollen to deal with the Sea of Bliss. On the one hand, Sun Ningxiang was asking for Lin Yuan's opinion. She wanted to see the current demand for the aurora pollen. She wanted to see if he needed to replenish the aurora pollen in the market. On the other hand, Sun Ningxiang was also indirectly reminding Lin Yuan. The aurora pollen in the market had reached its limit. Basically, the aurora pollen needed in the market had to be replenished by himself. Lin Yuan had originally called Sun Ningxiang to talk about this matter, but he did not expect her to take the initiative to mention it to him. Lin Yuan could also hear the meaning in Sun Ningxiang's words and could not help but admire her keen sense of smell. Sun Ningxiang, from now on, gather all the aurora pollen in the Du Immortal Garden. Don't let any of it flow into the market. The collection of aurora pollen over the past few months has achieved its initial goal. It's time to let go and let the price of aurora pollen soar. Sun Ningxiang immediately replied, I'll arrange it now. At the same time, I'll let the Du Immortal Garden collect as much aurora pollen as possible tonight through the channels. Our Du Immortal Garden has cooperation with many chambers of commerce. At this time, those chambers of commerce should give us some face. Lin Yuan raised his eyebrows. Just when the Aurora Pollen's price was destined to skyrocket, Sun Ningxiang was taking drastic measures from under the pot. At that time, even if the Sea of Bliss gave up all its face as a veteran faction, it would not be able to get much Aurora Pollen from the market. That's right, the Aurora Pollen's price was skyrocketing. How could those angelfish of bliss in the water eat it? Lin Yuan secretly guessed in his heart. He did not know how flustered the Sea of Bliss, which was becoming more and more arrogant in cooperation with him, would be tonight. After talking to Sun Ningxiang about this matter, Lin Yuan immediately returned to Star Web. After returning to Star Web, Lin Yuan found that in addition to the person who had just accepted the exchange message, another person had also received the exchange message. Lin Yuan's eyes immediately lit up. Lin Yuan clicked on the first person's message and was about to chat. However, when he saw the message, he frowned slightly. Pretty guy holding an umbrella. Can your exchange message guarantee the safety of the phase under the world cleansing? Pretty guy with an umbrella? I need to go to the spirit guards with your store to do a notarization. If my fae dies while evolving into a myth breed, your store will have to pay a premium as compensation. This person was really realistic. The first thing he talked about was compensation. Although it was human nature to protect one's own interests, this demand for compensation was a little too high. Even some Emperor-class experts from peak factions would return a favor and help a friend's spiritual item undergo the world cleansing. Accidents could also happen. No one could guarantee that this kind of accident would happen or not. However, this person was asking him to bear all the risks, which made Lin Yuan doubt this person's sincerity. However, he had the creation breed culling butterfly in his hands, and its power world could indeed guarantee the safety of the other party's fae. For the sake of the 10% world grace and for genius to evolve to Diamond X as soon as possible, Lin Yuan patiently replied. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, it's fine to have the spirit guards notarized, but our store cannot accept the premium as compensation. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, if your fae really dies under the world cleansing, our store can compensate you with any bronze/epic fae. Our store will also be responsible for upgrading your fae to its original grade. I wonder if that's possible? After replying to the message, Lin Yuan was ready to see what request the next person who had received the exchange message had made. Lin Yuan didn't expect the expert called Pretty Guy holding an umbrella on Star Web to reply instantly. Pretty Guy holding an umbrella? That's fine, but when the spirit guards notarize it, I need to add another condition. Pretty Guy holding an umbrella? Even if my Triceratops rhinoceros isn't dead, if its roots are damaged by the world cleansing and can't be restored, your store will have to compensate according to the price. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan's face darkened. At that moment, Lin Yuan didn't want to waste any more words with this pretty guy holding an umbrella. This pretty guy holding an umbrella's request was simply a scam. If it wasn't dead and he had to compensate according to the price, wouldn't that be the same as getting a main fae for free? Furthermore, this person had contracted a suzerain/fantasy V Triceratops rhinoceros. As a very outstanding defense-type fae, the Triceratops rhinoceros' 3 long horns propped up a horn shield and could parry other fae's attacks. Its thick rhinoceros hide also had a certain immunity against elemental abilities. If Lin Yuan had contracted a Triceratops rhinoceros and relied on its outstanding defense, Lin Yuan would dare to bet on whether the Triceratops rhinoceros could obtain the chance to become a myth. However, the expert called Pretty Guy holding an umbrella didn't dare to put his all into the gamble. This meant that this pretty guy holding an umbrella expert didn't have the heart of an expert at all. He was only thinking about how to survive and schemed against others to take advantage of him. Lin Yuan didn't want to cooperate with such a person, but for the sake of the 10% world cleansing, Lin Yuan forcefully suppressed his emotions and replied with an okay. Just as Lin Yuan was planning to invite Pretty Guy holding an umbrella to the royal capital, Pretty Guy holding an umbrella sent another message. Pretty Guy holding an umbrella, since I'm done talking, let's talk about your request. Pretty Guy holding an umbrella, I feel that the 10% world grace is a little unreasonable. What do you think? Upon seeing this message, Lin Yuan felt his fist itching. What do I think? I don't want to see it at all. Lin Yuan thought he had a good temper, but he really couldn't suppress his anger because of this pretty guy holding an umbrella. Lin Yuan took a deep breath and gritted his teeth as he replied. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, get lost. You aren't fit to be an Emperor-class expert. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, Your Triceratops rhinoceros is only fit to stay below myth breed in your hands. After sending the message, Lin Yuan blacklisted pretty guy holding an umbrella and didn't give him a chance to continue speaking. He then recovered his mood and checked the second expert who had received the exchange message and sent him a private message. Yukio Su's Calamity, hello, my 2 Fays are currently at the pinnacle of Myth 2. I wonder if your store can accept the Myth 3 world cleansing? The third one. End of this chapter. Chapter 943. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up when he saw this message and he replied. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, of course. Lin Yuan didn't expect this expert with the Star Web account called Yukio Su's to be so awesome. He actually had 2 pinnacle Myth 2 Fays. The blessing of heaven and earth that descended after the Myth 3 world baptism was completely different from the blessing of heaven and earth that descended after the Myth 2 world baptism. The world grace that descended after the Myth 3 world cleansing was to help the Fae's body martial transformation. In essence, it was more than 10 times stronger than the world grace of Myth 2. 10% of the world grace of 2 Myth 3 Faes would condense a large number of Spirit Chi crystals. These Spirit Chi crystals would be enough for Genius to evolve to Diamond X/Fantasy Eye. After Genius evolved to Diamond/Fantasy Eye, there would still be a lot of Spirit Chi crystals left for Lin Yuan to use at will. Lin Yuan felt that he could finally return to the feeling of a Spirit Chi crystal nouveau riche. However, he immediately started to wonder. If this Star Web expert called Yukio Su's had 2 pinnacle Myth 2 Faes, then it should be possible for them to help each other. If these 2 Faes could help each other, it should be possible for them to both reach Myth 3. Moreover, someone who could nurture 2 Faes to the pinnacle of Suzerain/Myth 2 did not seem to lack resources. Such people often resided in major factions. Even if they were not, they should be enthusiastic about accepting missions like Duan He. Otherwise, they would not be able to obtain the resources to nurture 2 Faes to the pinnacle of Myth 2. However, this expert with the Star Web account called Yukio Su's had asked him for help. This was really strange. At that moment there was a 2.5-meter tall sturdy man on the back of this Star Web account. This sturdy man had a short buzz cut, and his muscles bulged, looking very powerful. However, once one looked at this sturdy man's face, one would find that he did not look fierce. Instead, he was as simple and cute as a big bear. However, this sturdy man's exposed skin was covered with nail scars. These neatly arranged fine nail scars did not look like they were caused by external injuries. Instead, they looked like plant roots that wanted to grow out of the flesh. The strange and dense nail scars made the muscular man's skin look rather strange. These spike-like scars would occasionally move on the sturdy man's body, just like earthworms hidden under the soil that would occasionally move. Every time this happened, the burly man would tremble uncontrollably and frown, as if he was enduring great pain. However, the burly man was already used to this kind of pain. Apart from his trembling body and tightly furrowed brows, the movement of the scar didn't affect the robust man's movements in the slightest. Upon seeing Lin Yuan's reply, the burly man's tensed expression relaxed for some reason. A faint look of hope appeared on his face as he repeatedly muttered to himself, "Of course, of course." It was as though Lin Yuan had added the word "of course" in front of the word "can," giving the burly man immense confidence. At that moment, the dense nail scars on the burly man's body moved violently as if they were walking on Huarong Road. The moment these spike-like scars moved violently, the pain from his body, spirit, heart, and soul forced the burly man to log out of Star Web. Immediately after, the burly man's body, spirit, heart, and soul erupted with a willpower amidst the intense pain, forcibly suppressing the 4 kinds of pain at the 4 levels. Then, ignoring the lingering nail scars on his body, he logged onto Star Web again and sent a very long message to Lin Yuan after trembling and hopeful. Yukio's complaint of calamity, "My 2 Suzerain/Myth 2 Faes are very special. They can't withstand any attack during the world cleansing. If they do, they will turn into ashes." Yukio Su's calamity, "In this case, can the exchange continue?" After sending this message, the burly man closed his eyes as though he was quietly waiting for a judgment that would decide his fate. Upon seeing Yukio Su's calamity's message, Lin Yuan did not feel anything wrong at first. However, Lin Yuan's face immediately revealed a pretty boy's puzzled expression. Yukio Su's calamity had said that his 2 Suzerain/Myth 2 Faes could not withstand any blow under the world cleansing, which was a little exaggerated. Among Lin Yuan's many contracted Faes, Genius was a functional Fae and did not possess any offensive ability. Therefore, when Genius reached the pinnacle of Myth 2, he would need to avoid letting Genius receive direct attacks from the world cleansing if he wanted to survive it. Otherwise, Genius, which did not possess combat ability, would easily suffer serious damage under the world cleansing. Even a functional Fey like Genius, which did not possess offensive ability, would not die immediately after receiving the world cleansing's attack. Although a functional Fey did not possess combat ability, as long as its grade reached the level of a suzerain/myth breed, its body's toughness would not be bad. It would not be turned into ashes under the world cleansing's attack. It seemed that Yukio Su's Calamity's 2 suzerain/myth 2 Feys should be very special. However, the more special a Fey was, the more valuable it was in a specific aspect. Therefore, it should be easy for Yukio Su's Calamity to find experts for help by relying on its Fey's special abilities. Lin Yuan could not figure out the Yukio Su's Calamity situation, so he simply did not think about it. He did not ask what the Yukio Su's Calamity's Feys were. It might be difficult for others if Yukio Su's Calamity's world cleansing attack could not hit his 2 Feys. However, it was very easy for Lin Yuan to do it. Since Yukio Su's Calamity had taken the initiative to make this request, Lin Yuan felt that the reward for exchanging information needed to be increased accordingly. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, no problem. I can guarantee that your 2 Feys will not be attacked by the world cleansing. When the burly man, whose name was Yukio Su's Calamity on Star Web, saw Lin Yuan's message, his eyes suddenly widened. The glimmer of hope in his dim eyes suddenly magnified. Finally, they shone like 2 suns that had broken through the shackles of the mortal world. The burly man's usually gloomy eyes finally had a long-awaited sunrise. At that moment, the burly man's body trembled slightly, but this time, it was not because of the pain from those nail scars. Instead, it was because of the burly man's agitated emotions that caused his body to tremble uncontrollably. The first one was even worse. End of this chapter. Chapter 944. At the same time, when hope appeared in the burly man's eyes, the hatred that was buried in the depths of his soul and never dared to think about welled up. The sturdy man's simple and adorable face instantly turned ice-cold. At that moment, the burly man whose name was Yukio Su's Calamity on Star Web saw another message from Lin Yuan. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, but this request of yours requires a creation breed Fey to activate the Law World's power. I'm sure you know this. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, I believe you've been looking for an Emperor-class expert to help your 2 spiritual items through the world cleansing. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, if that's the case then my previous offer is too shabby. However, I don't intend to increase the price by too much. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, since you are going to use 2 Feys to undergo the world cleansing, then double the price and add 50 source-type lifeforms according to the exchange message. When Lin Yuan changed the price he had also given it some thought. Lin Yuan's main purpose for issuing the trade news was the 10% world grace, so his remuneration did not increase too much. He only asked for an additional 50 source-type items. However, when the burly man on Star Web called Yukio Su's Calamity saw Lin Yuan's message, he suddenly thought of something. His face turned embarrassed and his ears turned red. It made the sturdy man's honest face look even cuter, like a large teddy bear. Moreover, the teddy bear was scratching the back of its head with its hand, looking helpless. The burly man replied with a red face and a deflated stomach. Yukio Su's Calamity, that, I don't have money now. I don't have any heaven and earth phase or source-type lifeforms. Yukio Su's Calamity, if possible, I can choose to give you all the world grace after the Fey evolves. Yukio Su's Calamity, or when my Fey breaks through to Myth 3, I can think of ways to earn money. Yukio's complaint, can I double the amount of heaven and earth phase and source-type items that I need to pay after I earn money? After sending this message, the burly man added another sentence in embarrassment. Yukio versus Calamity, don't worry, I'll do my best to compensate you as soon as possible. Lin Yuan could not help but be dumbfounded when he saw the message from Yukio's Tales of Calamity. Just how thick was this person's skin? He actually dared to act shamelessly? Since when could a Star Web store issue an item exchange on credit? However, he then carefully read through all the messages sent by the Drifting World's tribulations. Lin Yuan realized that this message was not meant to tease him. Instead, it had the sincerity of a person being forced into a desperate situation. Yukio's Tale of Calamity had asked for his help in helping a Fey undergo the world cleansing and break through to Myth 3. He had also expressed that he possessed Emperor-class power. Therefore, after helping the 2 Pinnacle Suzerain/Myth 2 Feys face-to-face with the world cleansing, there was no possibility of Yukio Tale Calamity reneging on its promise. However, under such circumstances, Yukio Tale of Retribution was still willing to offer up all the grace of heaven and earth. This meant that Yukio Tale of Retribution had no other choice. Yukio's Tale of Calamity had offered up all of the grace of heaven and earth, which was equivalent to cutting off the future of his spiritual being. Such a choice could be said to be no different from putting oneself in a hopeless situation to survive. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw another message from Yukio-su's calamity. Yukio's complaint: "If you really don't agree, I can swear by the rules to be your servant for 3 years. Yukio's complaint: "During these 3 years as your servant, you can ask me to do anything." Yukio's complaint: "But after 3 years as your servant, I have to leave to do something I have to do." Lin Yuan fell silent when he saw the message from Yukio's complaint. Perhaps it was because he had once been deep in the darkness and struggled to climb in the mud of the darkness. Lin Yuan felt that he seemed to be able to understand this Emperor-class expert called Yukio Tale of Calamity on Star Web. If he had not been forced into a desperate situation, how could an Emperor-class expert be willing to put down his dignity, give up his freedom, abandon himself, and hand over his fate to a stranger for 3 years? After a few seconds of silence, Lin Yuan replied, "Deep Mountain Elder Lin, I'll help you undergo the world cleansing first. We'll discuss the other conditions and rewards in person. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, you can call me when you come to the royal capital." After saying that, Lin Yuan sent his phone number to Yukio Tale of Calamity. Lin Yuan did not know much about Yukio Tale of Calamity, so he could not talk about making Yukio Tale of Calamity swear by the rules to be his servant for 3 years. At the same time, according to Yukio Tale of Calamity's words, Lin Yuan felt that Yukio Tale of Calamity must be a person with a story. This story was likely related to what Yukio Tale of Calamity had to do after 3 years. Therefore, Lin Yuan intended to reserve the opportunity to choose the reward until he met Yukio Tale of Calamity himself. Then he would choose whether to let Yukio Tale of Calamity give him 2 heaven and earth phase and 110 source-type lifeforms. Or would he swear by the rules to be his guardian for 3 years? Lin Yuan did not like the title and identity of a servant. Back then, Listen had used the willpower rune to issue a servant oath to him, but Lin Yuan treated Listen no differently from the others in the mansion. Lin Yuan was waiting for Yukio Tale of Calamity's reply, but he still did not receive a reply after waiting for a long time. Lin Yuan clicked on Yukio Tale of Calamity's Star Web information to check and found that he had unknowingly logged off Star Web. Lin Yuan sighed. "I wonder what Yukio Tale of Calamity is doing. He's gone while we were discussing something. Why is he so unreliable?" However, Lin Yuan had already sent the message. He just had to wait for Yukio Tale of Calamity to call him. At that moment, in a narrow and dilapidated house, a burly figure wrapped in a robe was rolling violently on the ground. The burly figure in the robe was obviously enduring the pain, gritting his teeth to prevent himself from groaning. As he struggled and rolled, his sweat soaked the black robe, leaving watermarks on the ground. After a while, the burly figure lay on the ground on his back and lifted his cloak, revealing a face stained with water. There was obviously more water on his face than on his neck. It was unknown whether it was sweat or tears. In any case, the eyes of the burly man lying on the ground were red. The burly man raised his hand with difficulty and looked at the nail scar that would flare up every few minutes. After a long while he stood up shakily. The burly man looked at the night in the distance as if he wanted to find a light in the night that could reach his heart. After Lin Yuan finished dealing with the matters at hand, he wondered if he should go to Chimy's live streaming room to take a look. At that moment, Chimy's live streaming room could be said to be the most lively place in the entire Star Web. Bai Hao, who was ranked first in Chimy's live streaming room, could now be considered the most excited and happy person in the entire Star Web. Second place was even more. End of this chapter. Chapter 945. Bai Hao had been sparring with Wang Fan in the training room, hoping to hone their coordination. In order to get into the semi-finals of the S tournament, they had to make a dash for it. Bai Hao was a high explosive damage dealer. He was the center of the team and his fighting style was very aggressive and crazy. However, Bai Hao also knew his weakness, which was that he could not last long enough. If he couldn't secure victory with his 3 strikes and injure the enemy Fei, he would be useless. As for Wang Fan, he was a support. After Wang Fan got to know Lin Yuan and Lu Jie, he had made some adjustments to his phase equipment and combat style. As Radiant's 100 sequence members, Bai Hao and Wang Fan had trump cards that they had yet to reveal. Moreover, Bai Hao and Wang Fan's guild club had never become an A-ranked guild club. Their best result was only 5th place in the S tournament. If they won the semi-finals this time, they would be able to set a new record for the club guild in the S tournament. They might even be able to get into the top 3 this year, allowing their club guild to become an A-ranked club guild. Therefore, when the time came, Bai Hao and Wang Fan decided to go all out. Bai Hao and Wang Fan were prepared to reveal some of their trump cards in this year's S tournament. However, because both sides usually hid their trump cards, the two of them did not have much cooperation in terms of trump cards. Bai Hao had given up on thinking about the relationship between Black and Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess after 2 days of crazy training. Even though Bai Hao had let go of all the distractions in his mind, he would still hear the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess's voice from time to time. Not only did the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess's voice not distract Bai Hao, but it also gave him an inexplicable will to fight. However, Bai Hao did not expect that the team leader would bring Wang Fan's girlfriend Anna into the training room while he was training with Wang Fan, saying that the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess had appeared for a live broadcast. When Bai Hao heard the news from the leader, he left Wang Fan and Anna behind and logged into Star Web in the training room. As a result, Bai Hao found that the GIF that was originally blocking the screen had disappeared. He had entered the live stream thousands of times and would even enter the live stream when there was no one broadcasting. At this moment, a beautiful figure appeared where the GIF was supposed to be. This beautiful figure collided with Bai Hao's eyes, and directly merged with the voice that had already resounded in Bai Hao's soul countless times. At this moment, Bai Hao suddenly thought of a sentence. This man is like a rainbow, only when he meets the person above him will he know that he exists. Bai Hao stared blankly at the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess, not even willing to blink. After looking at the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess' true appearance for a while, Bai Hao suddenly felt that the little white cat in the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess's arms was a little irksome. Moreover, this little white cat had a little too many tails. The Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess's fingers slid across the little white cat's body, but the little white cat's face revealed an aggrieved and unwilling expression. Bai Hao couldn't help but feel jealous. If Bai Hao could come to the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess's side through the live stream, he would definitely grab the little white cat and say this. You really don't know how lucky you are. You don't want me to come. Although Bai Hao was in a daze, his hands didn't slow down. The Star Web live streaming gift included a bouquet of 100 hibiscus flowers that cost 10,000 Radiance dollars, and Bai Hao was continuously sending 3 bouquets per second. As a Radiance 100 sequence member and the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess's live streaming room's ranking, Bai Hao received a notification when he entered the live streaming room. However, the old fans in the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess's live streaming room were already used to Bai Hao's appearance and crazy gifting. This was because every time the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess live streaming room was live streaming, Bai Hao would be there and never be absent. In fact, many Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess's fans would occasionally enter the live streaming room when she was not live streaming and see Bai Hao. It could be said that Bai Hao appeared in the live streaming room more than the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess's live streaming room. At that moment, Bai Hao saw a message flash in his Star Web mailbox. He opened it and saw that it was a message from Wang Fan. Zhongfeng Wang Fan, damn. I didn't expect the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess to be so good-looking. It's no wonder you like her voice. Zhongfeng Wang Fan, but the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess is so beautiful. Why didn't she show her face when she started live streaming? If she had shown her face, her popularity should have been higher than now, right? Bai Hao curled his lips when he saw Wang Fan's message. He didn't expect Wang Fan to log into Star Web immediately like him. However, he had never heard that Wang Fan was a fan of the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess. Wasn't Wang Fan, who was a henpecked man, always afraid of Anna? Since when did he dare to talk about a woman's looks on Star Web? Based on Wang Fan's message, this was the first time Bai Hao felt that Wang Fan was such a shallow person. He didn't like the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess's voice because she was pretty. He wasn't a shallow person. Moreover, regardless of whether the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess showed her face or not, looking at the number of people in the live streaming room, it would immediately become one of the top 10 most popular live streaming rooms in the attractive section. What was a capable live streaming? It was a tactical retreat. Seeing that the number of people in the live streaming room was still rising, Bai Hao suddenly felt a sense of crisis. As the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess showed her face, the number of people in the live streaming room had reached 4 times the previous number. In that case, he might not be able to keep his first position on the list. Just as Bai Hao was thinking about how to keep his first position, a fan in the live streaming room rewarded the Sparrow-voiced Lowly Goddess with 3,100 hibiscus bouquets, which cost 10,000 Radiance dollars each. This amount of money directly allowed the fan to climb to the third position on the list, and was not far from the second position. Bai Hao immediately paid attention to this person's ID, and his eyes widened. Bai Hao saw that this ID was unknown flame, Anna. Isn't this Wang Fan's wife? Just as Bai Hao was about to ask Wang Fan what was going on, he realized that Wang Fan had sent him another message. His tone was like Little Red Riding Hood who had been hollowed out by the big bad wolf. Heavy Frontier Wang Fan, Bai Hao. If I didn't think that sparrow-voiced lowly goddess showing her face would hurt you and specially came to comfort you, Anna wouldn't have followed me to the sparrow-voiced lowly goddess's live-streaming room. Upon seeing Wang Fan's message, Bai Hao immediately knew what was going on. Anna had always been a senior lover of good looks and she liked anything that looked good. She would also enter a fanatical state when she saw something beautiful that amazed her. The reward just now was obviously because Anna liked the sparrow-voiced lowly goddess's beauty and became a fan. Bai Hao swallowed his saliva. If Anna also became a fan of the sparrow-voiced lowly goddess, how could Wang Fan save money? Could he still borrow money from Wang Fan in the future? Chapter 947. In the end, the sparrow-voiced lowly goddess live-streaming room had gradually evolved into a battlefield between Black's fans and Lin Yuan's fans. Chimey frowned slightly when it saw the live-streaming room becoming increasingly noisy. Some people praised Black, Chimey was willing to listen to it, while others praised Lin Yuan. However, Chimey didn't like it when people praised Lin Yuan and belittled Black, and when people praised Black belittled Lin Yuan. Chimey suddenly recalled a song that Lin Yuan had taught it and hummed softly. Wearing a bamboo hat in the misty rain, quietly waiting for the sun to break through the clouds. Listening to the three pure ones' wondrous sound so I hear it. With a flip of the hand, the fate is reversed, and with a flip of the hand the universe is restored. There is no need to differentiate between Taoists and monks. The frost flower sword is carved with a trace of loneliness and tenacity. Treading over 1,000 mountains to cleanse the demonic souls. A youth can be arrogant and dare to scold heaven and earth for being heartless. It doesn't matter if it's an opportunity or the root of calamity. Playing a song while intoxicated, a dream or me which is real. One can't forget one's love, causing one's heart to be trapped. Looking at the path of immortality, one can see the rain and snow far away. There is no harm in facing people with a smile when you are lonely. Chimey's voice was filled with spirituality. The instant the song sounded, the noisy live-streaming room instantly calmed down. Everyone seemed to see a youth who wasn't afraid of hardships and dangers. He was maintaining his original heart and constantly moving forward step by step. It was as though this tenacious and fearless youth was standing in front of them and looking at them with clear eyes. At that moment, Chimey's heart was filled with anger, so its voice was slightly cold when it sang. However, it was also this slight coldness that made the youth who dared to scold heaven and earth for being heartless filled with a kind of cold temperament. This cold temperament didn't allow the youth to have the arrogance that surfaced on the surface. There was only a firm and unyielding character hidden in his body. Chimey had gone from a songstress bird that wasn't even a fay to a clear sound Luan sparrow that dared to devour the Luan phoenix's bloodline as a sparrow. It had understood many things and principles. Although Chimey still maintained its original appearance in front of Lin Yuan, it had experienced the hardships and difficulties of growth. Lin Yuan had always been moving forward with a trace of tenacity and loneliness. No matter how lonely he was, he would treat others with a smile. In Chimey's heart, the perfect Lin Yuan was now being criticized by others. This made it want to crush the head of the audience in the live-streaming room. At that moment, Star Web's chief editor, Kong Chi, sighed and looked at Tian Ningning who had a bitter expression. You'll have to figure this out on your own. If you really don't want to do crisis PR for Black without Black knowing, you can discuss it with him after he goes online. Tian Ningning raised her head to look at Kong Chi. Her eyes were filled with hope and stubbornness. Chief editor, you said that you would look for Star Tower and see if they could contact Black and Lin Yuan to have a duel. Is that not going to work? Hearing Tian Ningning's words, Kong Chi had a strange expression on her face. Logically speaking, as the chief editor of Star Web, if he made a request to the Star Web Tower, the Star Web Tower would definitely value it. Furthermore, he contacted Yu Yen, the supervisor of the Star Tower, and expressed his intentions. Yu Yen agreed readily as well, and he said that he would try to contact them and help them. But he didn't expect that in less than 20 minutes, Yu Yen would tell him that he couldn't help him. His tone was even slightly blaming himself, as if he had pushed Yu Yen into a pit of fire. Kong Chi was unable to wrap her head around the change in Yu Yan's attitude. Kang Chi thought that she had a rather good relationship with Yu Yan in private. However, Kang Chi didn't know that if Yu Yan was standing in front of her, he would definitely give her a scolding. He would even give her a few heart-wrenching punches. When Yu Yan heard that his old friend was looking for him for help, he didn't even think about it before agreeing. However, when investigating Lin Yuan and Black Star's information, Yu Yan realized that he didn't have the authority as the supervisor of the Star Tower. He even had the authority to retrieve the information of the Radiance 100 sequence members. Therefore, the cautious Yu Yan contacted his supervisor in the Radiance Palace and applied to increase his authority level. After Yu Yan increased his authority level, he realized that his authority was still insufficient when investigating Lin Yuan and Black's information. This made Yu Yan's back involuntarily break out in a cold sweat. At the same time, Yu Yan was also nervously guessing Lin Yuan and Black's identity. As the supervisor of the Star Tower, Yu Yan knew better than anyone how the Radiance Federation's star web was structured. Anyone who wanted to encrypt their identity on the star web had to go through the Three Lords. For one of the Three Lords to give Lin Yuan and Black such high authority level, it proved that Lin Yuan and Black's identity was honorable. He had investigated Lin Yuan and Black's identity twice today, so the Lord who had encrypted Lin Yuan and Black must have known about it. Yu Yan was really afraid that he would be held accountable by one of the Three Lords tomorrow morning. Looking at Tian Ningning's stubborn gaze, Kang Chi didn't say anything and didn't know what to say. She could only turn around and return to her office to do other work. When Tian Ningning saw Kang Chi's reaction, she knew that Kang Chi had no other way. Tian Ningning squeezed the phone in her hand and forced herself to calm down. She was prepared to wait for Long Tao's exclusive reporter to return her call. At that moment, Tian Ningning's phone rang. However, the number was an unknown number that Tian Ningning didn't save. However, Tian Ningning still picked it up. Tian Ningning heard a serious voice on the other side. "Is this Black's exclusive reporter? I'm Long Tao." Long Tao didn't expect such a thing to happen on Star Web after the Nix assembly ended. As someone who came from a top faction, Long Tao didn't need to think to know what was going on. If this had just happened, Long Tao would have stood up for Black as the only direct descendant of the Coiled Dragon Valley's younger generation. This matter definitely wouldn't have developed to this extent. It was true that Long Tao and Lin Yuan were friends, but Long Tao had also experienced life and death with Black. Long Tao felt that when he was facing Lin Yuan and Black, he seemed to be a little conflicted. When he had first come into contact with Black, he felt that Black had a familiar feeling. Now that Long Tao carefully savored this feeling, he realized that this feeling came from the hurried meeting with Lin Yuan in the Radiant Moon Palace. But later, when he saw Lin Yuan again, the familiarity with Black had automatically fed back to Lin Yuan. It was as though Lin Yuan was also a companion who had experienced life and death. After hurriedly saying a few words to Tian Ningning, Long Tao hurriedly hung up the phone. After hanging up the phone, Long Tao called Lin Yuan. However, after calling, Long Tao realized that Lin Yuan didn't pick up his phone. Long Tao didn't know if Lin Yuan didn't bring his phone with him or if Lin Yuan couldn't hear the phone call on Star Web. The second one, end of this chapter. Chapter 948. Although Long Tao did not know the identity of Chief Guard Ye's disciple at the Great Night Assembly, he had exchanged contact information with Lu Jie, who was also her disciple. Long Tao thought about it and decided to call Lu Jie. He wanted to see if Lu Jie could contact Lin Yuan or if he could not contact Lin Yuan personally to settle this matter. Since the younger generation of those top factions and veteran factions were trying to curry favor with Lin Yuan, then someone with a high enough status to stand out. This person with a high enough status to Lin Yuan would have the final say. In fact, Long Tao wanted to call Lu Jie not only to defame him. It was also for Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan had the Radiant Light Medal and was destined to fight for the Radiance Envoy position. If this matter made Lin Yuan's image appear too aggressive, then this aggressive image would only be a hindrance on his path to becoming a Radiance Envoy in the future. It would not help him at all. Lu Jie, who had just upgraded his sacred source life form in the land of spirit suppression, took a deep breath and was about to finish the bowl of suzerain silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar that Lin Yuan had given him. Then, with the suzerain silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar's ability to protect the soul and cleanse the soul's impurities, the insect queen could control the insect species tumor fey in front of it, which would only increase its strength by several times. At that moment, the phone in Lu Jie's left pocket rang. The ringing in his left pocket made Lu Jie raise his brows slightly. When Lu Jie had decided to hide his identity at the Great Night Assembly, he had made preparations in advance. He had gotten an extra phone and applied for an additional Star Web account. The phone in his left pocket was specially prepared by Wuxia. Wuxia took out the phone in his left pocket and picked up the call when he saw that it was Long Tao. Wuxia and Long Tao knew each other before. Now that he was using another identity to communicate with someone he already knew, Wuxia had a special feeling. Wuxia seemed to know why Lin Yuan had split into 3 identities on Star Web. But now that he thought about it, he had 3 identities on Star Web. The Spirit Guard's Chief Guard's disciple, Radiance 100 Sequence Number 30 Heart of Insect Swarm Wuxia, Sky City's White Robe General Manager. Now, no matter which identity Lin Yuan appeared with, Wuxia could naturally follow beside Lin Yuan. This feeling made Wuxia feel very at ease. Following in Lin Yuan's footsteps was also his pursuit as Lin Yuan's retainer. Wuxia was still wondering why Long Tao was looking for him, but after picking up Long Tao's call, Wuxia's frown deepened. After listening to Long Tao explain the whole story, Wuxia asked Long Tao aloud, "Did you contact Lin Yuan before contacting me?" Hearing that, Long Tao said without hiding anything, "Before contacting you, I called him twice but he didn't pick up. In order to solve this matter quickly, I called you." Upon hearing Long Tao's words, Wuxia said in a deep voice, "Leave this to me." After saying that, Wuxia hung up the phone without telling Long Tao what he planned to do. This made Long Tao feel a little uncertain. The Chief Guard's disciple should not know Black. If Wuxia made the final decision on Star Web and said that Black could not be compared to Lin Yuan at all, then those veteran factions and the top faction's younger generation that had not joined the battle would probably immediately join the battle. At that time, not to mention Lin Yuan, Black would definitely be seriously affected. After thinking about it, Long Tao, who had originally planned to go to the breeding room to upgrade his phase, quickly logged on to Star Web. At that moment, Long Tao saw that Wuxia had already posted, "I don't know who is stronger between Black and Lin Yuan. They even sat together for dinner tonight, and I didn't see them thinking about competing to see who is stronger." Star Web had an identity authentication function. Although Wuxia's Star Web account was new, he had already used it to go through Star Web authentication. Wuxia's identity authentication was only a short 6 words, but these 6 words were destined to make Wuxia the Radiance Federation's most distinguished younger generation. These 6 words were the Young Palace Lord of Night End Palace. When Long Tao saw Wuxia's post, he immediately smiled and hurriedly reposted it. At the same time, he asked Zhao Xiaochun, Fang Duo, and the others from the Dragon Gate Guild Club to repost Wuxia's post. As Long Tao reposted it, Wuxia's post was soon reflected in the eyes of the majority of Star Web netizens. Upon seeing Wuxia's post, many people subconsciously thought that it was a rumor. This included Black's official fan group owner, Lu Lang. However, when these skeptical people clicked on Wuxia's Star Web account, they could not help but gasp. They immediately shut their mouths. Star Web's official authentication could not be fake, so this news was definitely not a rumor. They did not expect that Black and Lin Yuan actually knew each other and were friends. Otherwise, they would not have had the opportunity to eat together. Wuxia's post made the top factions and veteran factions' younger generation, who wanted to curry favor with Lin Yuan and attack Black, immediately feel that they seemed to have outsmarted themselves. They hurriedly deleted all their posts related to Black and Lin Yuan. In an instant, these veteran factions and top factions' younger generation's posts targeting Black were completely deleted. This storm also came to an end with Wuxia's post. Tian Ningning, who had been observing the Star Web's movements, could not help but cry with excitement when she saw Wuxia's post and the calm Star Web. He couldn't help but mutter to himself, "It's finally over. It's finally over." However, Tian Ningning felt that as Black's exclusive reporter, it was time for her to have a good talk with Black. Just now, Lin Yuan had also received private messages from the Braised Egghead, Zhou Jiasin, the Violent-Tempered Woman, and the others. Although Lin Yuan's original Star Web account did not block everyone's messages like the Combat Class Spirit Chi Professional Black's identity, he did not have many friends. However, Lin Yuan did not have many friends on the Star Web account. He did not even add most of the members of the Purchase with No Lost Stores fan club as Star Web friends. Therefore, whenever he saw someone send him a Star Web message, Lin Yuan would immediately check it. At one glance, Lin Yuan's face was as wonderful as if he had opened a big dying house. Lin Yuan could not imagine how many people had scolded him on Star Web tonight and how many had been scolded for nothing. Just as Lin Yuan was thinking about how to solve this matter, he found Wuxia's post. After seeing Wuxia's post, Lin Yuan knew that this matter had calmed down. He did not need to solve it at all. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly thought of Black Star Web exclusive reporter, Tian Ningning. Lin Yuan hurriedly exited his original Star Web account and logged into Black Star Web account, which had not been online for some time. After logging into Black Star Web account, Lin Yuan saw that Tian Ningning had sent him 99+ messages. Upon seeing these messages, Lin Yuan suddenly felt that he really did not treat his exclusive reporter well enough. However, Lin Yuan, who had been busy and rarely had time to rest, really could not take care of Tian Ningning on Star Web. Lin Yuan was very satisfied with Tian Ningning during this period when she was his exclusive reporter. Lin Yuan felt that it was time for him to find her and have a good and honest talk. Chapter 3. Tomorrow we will start developing the swamp world. Everyone can join the book group and chat together. End of this chapter. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.